almost 12.
Damn.
11:45.
Some dude held their breath for 11 minutes?
Yeah,
Straight fish.
Yeah, and like before the thing, he's an older guy. He's got like this beanie on. He's got a wetsuit on. He just like takes a breath.
Was it Manny from Wild Boys?
Gets his mind right, and he just like slides into the water. And he just sits there in the bottom of the tank for almost 12 minutes.
That's crazy.
Doesn't that seem inhuman? 12 minutes underwater.
I've seen like David Blaine do it. He does
for that long?
Yeah.
So crazy.
That is wild.
Yeah, and then they had like a home run challenge, and then they had one guy the only guy that won was the guy versus Neymar Jr.
Oh, Neymar Jr. was there?
Yeah.
He beat him?
Yeah, he beat him, but it was kind of lame because they just had to kick the ball in the goal, and they just moved back. There was no goalie, and they like moved back further and further and further.
Yeah.
And then when they got to half filled, this guy hit it, and Neymar missed wide left. It's like a smidge. But at one point, he could have beat the guy, but he was like, because the guy missed at like 3/4 of half, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, the guy missed, and Neymar's like, "Oh, I'll tell you what, I'll try to hit the crossbar and then bank it in." So he hit the crossbar, but it didn't bank in. It was a good episode, though. Mr. Beast, he gets better and better.
Is that all on YouTube or?
All on YouTube, yeah. I think I'm on YouTube. I don't know. My kids were watching it yesterday, and they were like, "Oh, you got to watch this guy hold his breath."
Seems like a really exciting thing to watch someone just hold their breath on YouTube.
It was pretty incredible. It was more fun to watch the five guys just struggle, like jump in and like 20, 30 seconds in, they're dying in the bottom, and they're like shooting to the top, and this guy's just like in Zen state, sitting over there on the bottom, just holding his breath. It was wild. Did you guys have a good weekend?
Great weekend.
Great weekend. Phenomenal weekend.
Good Memorial Day weekend.
I'm glad we planned that right after New Zealand to have 4 days off.
We should have stayed in New Zealand.
That's what I was telling Omar. Like, we really didn't time it great because we could have potentially extended our trip.
We learned a lot. I will say that.
Yeah. Learned a ton.
We'll recap that. We'll kind of talk about some of the things maybe we would do differently.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, today we're going to do a recap of our hunt in New Zealand. We've had some people asking. Seems like people enjoyed like some of the photos coming back. People are interested in hearing how the trip went. So I thought we'd recap that.
I think people are also excited to talk about the gear that we used too.
Yeah.
Ooh, we hinted.
I'm excited to talk about gear too.
Yeah.
I think other than maybe one piece, I did pretty well.
Yeah.
Maybe two. I had one piece in my pack I never even used.
Piece of gear?
A piece of gear. Yeah, a piece of clothes, which went against my better judgment. I was like, I probably don't need that. Actually, two, I would say. So there's a couple pieces of clothing items.
Let me guess.
Yeah, go ahead.
On one of them.
Okay, go ahead.
Steri pin.
No, I didn't pack a steri pin.
Oh, you didn't pack it? Wow, I had it.
I didn't pack one. I packed water drops, but I didn't use them ever. Only one. I did use it one time. So the one time that I got water out of this straight river, I used it. But then even then, I was like, I probably shouldn't have. Probably wouldn't have mattered.
I'm surprised we're not sick.
I don't know. What's interesting? So since you brought it up, we got there to New Zealand. We meet these New Zealanders, Cam and Monty. These Kiwis. Anyway, they were like, yeah, no water treatment needed, right? So no steri pen, no drops, no filters, anything like that. You'll be good to go.
I think he said if you guys bring that, we're going to make fun of you the entire time. Like, it was something to that degree. Like, he's like, yeah, you are an idiot if you take a steri pen.
I think this conversation was happening at I think we were eating dinner before we actually left. And just for kicks, I Googled it, like New Zealand, should I treat my water on a backpack trip or a backpack hunt? And it said that you should.
You should?
Yeah. It's like, yeah, it's probably okay. It's better than the States where we're used to, given the fact that we have so many different activities going on in the landscape and livestock and stuff. But it still said you probably should.
Yeah.
But then, I don't know. I think the first time I just pulled water out of like a creek that was running, I was like, yeah, I'm probably okay.
The only time I was like nervous, it was like there was like a puddle, and it was like there was like carcasses of dead Tahr around. So I'm like, I should probably just treat this.
You mean
one.
where we camped?
No, it was like where we were hiking up to GOHUNT that one day. There was like I had missed the river that was coming. I was like, well, looks like I got to get a drink out the puddle now. So I stared at that.
Yeah.
That little catchment, the little pond that we were pulling water out of where we camped, finally, that one made me a little bit nervous.
All those tadpoles in there too?
There were a bunch of tadpoles, which I didn't see the first time I got water out of there, but then the first night we camped, I could hear frogs over there croaking. I told Joe in the morning, I'm like, did you hear those frogs last night? And he's like, nope. I was like, I'm pretty sure I heard frogs last night. And then the next night I paid attention and there was definitely frogs over there croaking.
Yeah.
Try to get frogs up there.
I don't know.
It's a long way to travel for a frog.
Anytime I go somewhere like that, or really anywhere, I'm always just like, I come back with a bunch of questions like, how the hell does that work? You know, because I was telling you guys, like out there by Parowan, close to where I'm from, they have these big mud flats. And when they get a really good spring runoff and it runs down and fills up this catchment, like within 2 days, you'll see frogs or toads maybe appearing. I don't know if they're frogs or toads.
Yeah, they're all like underneath the mud.
Yeah, burrowed into the mud.
And they
and
come alive.
Yeah, and like
move around.
Yeah, I don't know how long they can be dormant under there, but like that whole flat will just be full of croaking toads or frogs, I guess, which is so weird to me. I'm like, this is so bizarre. They're just hanging out underneath there. They hit the right conditions, and all of a sudden they're all over the place.
Yeah.
It's wild.
We need like a Nat Geo on that in Parowan.
Yeah. That's one thing about doing a podcast is you start saying stuff, and then, you know, people are reaching out and they're like, oh, this is why this and this is why that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, you think you know quite a bit till you have to say it on a mic.
Google just told me 5 to 10 years potentially for toads that can lay dormant for underground.
Oh,
5 to 10 years.
Yeah. So it depends on the species, obviously. But
yeah, but they're just hanging out in a mud flat.
Just hanging out.
Yeah, I saw some toads. There was like a little bit of rain in Caliente this weekend, and I already saw toads coming out in my parents' backyard.
So they must go into like some sort of state of torpor or whatever, or they just resting heart tanks and they don't need food or anything like that, and they just hang out.
Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was surprised that there were frogs up there. Yeah. So we're gonna do a recap. We'll we got Joe on. Joe's our camera guy. Joe, how long you been with us?
It's over 6 months now.
How's it been?
It's been awesome.
Enjoying
It's
it.
fun. We're starting to get into hunting
You're getting
season.
out a lot.
Because as soon as I started, it was just straight editing, and then like kind of laying dormant. And now we're starting to get into fun stuff.
Like a frog.
Like a frog, yeah.
Just been a frog all winter.
Been a toad. Are you more of a frog or a toad?
That's a good question.
What are those frogs that like have that stuff on their back that people like lick them and does a bunch of crazy things to
Poison dart frogs?
What?
Poison dart frogs?
Yeah, maybe that's why I had some.
I think those are poison, but I think there is a toad that they can pull.
Like
they pull like a mucus layer or slime layer off their back that you can dry out essentially and smoke it.
Because remember, the reason why I bring it up is just jokingly, obviously. Because like I remember I kept telling you I had crazy dreams when I was in New Zealand.
Oh yeah.
Like crazy dreams. Maybe because I filtered out of that little pond. All the frogs were, or not filtered, but grabbed water out of the pond where the frogs were.
I actually did some Googling because I really only ever remember my dreams or have like really vivid dreams when I'm backpacking or like when I'm hunting and I'm like disconnected from my normal day to day. And there's something to that as well. People have said, which is interesting. I don't know if listeners, if you're listening, tell me if you also experience that.
I think it's because you're so tired. Like you could actually get really.
I went down a whole rabbit hole on dreams one time. Like why do people dream? When do they dream? When's it more like intense? It's it tends to happen like in your REM cycle, right? Yeah. And then depending on how close you actually wake up to your REM or like how deep your REM is.
Yeah.
Which is maybe the reason when I'm at home, because maybe I go through REM and then there's like a period afterwards where I don't wake up. So maybe I just don't remember it.
Yeah.
So then it got me thinking, like, I wonder if I set my alarm clock for like a certain time, like in the morning, like if I would immediately wake up and I would remember my dream.
I always like think about right when I wake up and if I had a dream, like just journaling it. Cause then like, you know, 3 o'clock rolls down and it's like, I forgot.
Or like midnight, if you wake up and you remember that dream, you have to write it down then because if you go back to sleep, you're gonna forget that dream.
Yeah. That'd be interesting.
At least I do.
I haven't had one that's like I need to, but like there's sometimes like ones where it's like this would be kind of funny to write down, but
yeah. Anyway, we'll dive in. We'll do a recap before we get going. I need to hit promo codes. The last time we missed it, which was okay, because we had Dan and Karen on, which was great. A lot of good feedback from that podcast. So use the promo code podcast if you want to sign up for GoHunt Insider account. You can do that whenever you want. Now's still a great time, actually. I was looking to see like what's still upcoming as far as draws go, and then you get into the summer time frame where you've got turnback tags in a state like Idaho. You've got over-the-counter opportunities still coming up mid-July in Utah for elk. You have antlerless elk coming up the first week of June, early part of June, so you could still apply and potentially draw an antlerless tag in Utah. So there's still that coming up. You got OTC, second and third rifle elk seasons, tags that are available in Colorado. That's still a really good opportunity to get out and go hunting this fall. So there's still a bunch of hunts that you could plan and go on. And then we have some draws coming up. So we've got Wyoming deer and antelope June 2nd, which is coming up here pretty quick. I got to make a decision myself. I know some of you guys are off the table. We've had a lot of different.
We're off the table now.
We've had some crazy plan changes in the office in the last 2 weeks. It was kind of wild to be gone, huh? We had all the different draw results coming back. We had Utah that came back while we were there. Nevada came back shortly after. Wyoming came back for elk non-residents. So everybody's plans kind of got jumbled up in good ways. But June 3rd, Arizona deer and bighorn sheep. That deadline's approaching quick. And then you have the Idaho controlled deer, elk, and antelope draw approaching June 5th.
And you got Montana antelope and antler stuff on June 1st.
Right. Oh, yeah. That's right. So there's a bunch of draws this week, next coming week. Yeah. So at least 3 of those are all draws that I need to figure out here probably today and get my apps in.
Yeah, so use that promo code podcast.
Yeah. And if you do it, what do you get?
$50 back to the GOHUNT gear shop.
Yep. What would you buy?
Right now, I would buy a Graxaw boot dryer because I left mine in New Zealand.
You would buy one?
Donated it to a hut. So I need to get one back.
Yeah.
So I would use that money towards that.
Yeah. Good luck getting your boots dry after that.
Yeah. That's why I left it in the hut and donated it to the Kiwis.
Yeah. I dried my boots out over the weekend, threw them out on the back porch in the sun, and they were toasty when I picked them up. Yeah. Not bad. But the leather was definitely like crisp.
Yeah.
You know, it was like a piece of bacon laid out there. Yeah. Like it'd been on your stove too long, you know, when the bacon gets beyond the point of like, it's just
that's the best.
Too crunchy. No, I don't like that.
No,
I like it just before it gets to that point where it's still got a little bit of pliability to it. I'm an expert at cooking bacon. I don't know if you knew that or not.
I don't know.
I do have 2 more housekeeping things I want to cover.
Yeah, I got a couple more too, but go ahead. One more, but go ahead.
What's yours? Go for yours. See if yours is the same.
No, go ahead.
Insider giveaways.
Hit that.
Okay, so as most people know, insider giveaways are back. You have a couple. I guess you'll have a couple days. What will the date of this podcast drop? Let me pull it up.
What do you mean when you say they're back?
We hadn't done one since 12 Days of Insider around Christmas time.
Okay.
So we had a May giveaway recently. It's going to end here end of May. Making sure what time this podcast comes out. Yeah, by the time this podcast comes out, you will have still a couple days left of the May giveaway, which is a bunch of good stuff. We have.
Do you want to talk about giveaways?
Yeah,
we've had some feedback.
Yeah, so
I think this is a good place to approach it.
Yeah, so for the longest time, we've always had monthly giveaways. Mm-hmm. And if you're an insider member, all current insiders are automatically entered to win one of our, insider giveaways. Mm-hmm. And if you're not, you just have to sign up for an insider membership anytime that month during that giveaway. As long as you sign up before usually 11:59 p.m. on the deadline day, you'd be entered to win that insider giveaway. Then we give away things like rifles, bows. We give away hunts before the past, clothing, boots, tripods, coolers, yeah, everything we give away. And then we paused them for a while because we got some feedback that people were, like sometimes it's hard to get items for giveaways, like big enough items to make it like kind of, big splash. Mm-hmm. So we paused them for a while because we were just like, okay, people were requesting, hey, we'd rather have bigger giveaways. Mm-hmm. Like we want you guys to do because people love the rifle giveaways. People love the bows, the bigger items, but it's like,
sure,
it's harder when you have smaller items. So we paused them for a little bit trying to figure out what we're going to do. And then we came back with May with the big gear package. So for the May giveaway, we're getting a Kafaro backpack, Tricer tripods, Vortex spotting scope, just a bunch of Stone Glacier stuff, and some Hanwag boots.
So it's one complete package with a bunch of gear.
Yep, we're gonna have 3 winners.
Okay, 3.
So yeah, total giveaway value for this one's $10,050, $3,350 per giveaway package. That's pretty awesome deal. But one thing I really want to mention is yes, May is awesome, but we have a sweet one coming up in June.
Okay.
So June.
You might like this one, Trell.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, you might. But you're ineligible to win.
What is it? Let me think. What would I want?
So
my mortgage paid off.
That's what we're doing. Yeah, we're paying off someone's mortgage. No, just sick. So for June, all insiders are automatically entered to win an antelope hunt in New Mexico.
Oh, nice.
We're doing a hunt with Blackhorn Guide Service.
Okay, cool.
In New Mexico. So GoHunt's going to join.
Shout out Ryan and Cole.
I think you've heard you're going to be filming Joe.
No, I'm hearing that now.
So yeah, Joe's going to be there to film.
So Joe's going to film it.
So
probably a few of us will be there. A few GoHunt peeps will be there as well, helping out. So it's going to be, one winner's going to get that. And the cool thing is, too, I want to mention, because we talked about it before with Nate, who kind of runs our Insider Plus service. Mm-hmm. If you're an Insider Plus member, you actually get 3 entries.
Oh, nice.
So for normal insider, you get 1 entry, but if you're an Insider Plus member, which is our consulting side of it, where you can talk to Nate and get a bunch of tips and tactics on how to work your apps.
$500 a year. He'll take care of all your applications and offer some consultation to you to help you line out your application strategy. And then should you draw some tags, he could probably be some help.
Yeah, he's got excited.
And pointing you in the right direction. So good bargain. And you get 3 entries if you're an Insider Plus member. Okay.
It's a pretty cool chance to go hunt antelope in New Mexico.
Tough to beat a New Mexico antelope tag.
Uh-huh.
I've only ever had one, and it was fun.
Yeah, so that's gonna be an awesome June giveaway. So.
Good hunt. I'm trying to figure out how to put an antelope tag in my pocket right now as we speak.
So right around then, that June giveaway will go through the month of June, and then the first couple of days of July, we'll announce that winner, and we'll start pretty tight turnaround. But
is that for this year?
Yep.
For this year, yep. So
it's the same spot. Lorenzo and Justin Gaethje and Luke Caldillo went last year.
That was a good hunt.
I was there. Yeah, there's a crap ton of antelope.
Yeah.
I want a
crap ton. What is a crap ton? Is that like 20 to 50 a day? Is that like
50?
The crap ton of antelope giveaway.
So what's a shit ton then? The difference than a crap ton?
Shit ton would be like 100 a day.
Oh, even though a shit and crap's the same?
That's a Wyoming one.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's big bucks, so that was cool.
That'd be cool.
That's awesome. My piece of housekeeping was so while we were gone, it was nice to be completely disconnected from all things social media and text messages and everything. But as soon as we got back into service, I got a message from our buddy Jeff Cordero. So Jeff Cordero, a friend of ours here at GoHunt, he's the NASCAR pit crew member that we've had on the podcast. Good dude. He owns Barefoot Archery. He reached out and said, hey, if you guys can help, if you'd feel like donating, if you'd feel like spreading the word, I would love it if you guys could help out. So I wanted to note this. So he has a guy, it's a friend of his that comes into the shop often, a local. His name's Luis Escobar. So he, friend of Barefoot Archery, friend of Jeff's, but he was at a TAC event and through some miscommunication ended up getting shot with an arrow. I was told it entered in his temple and exited his eye, and he lived. He's probably going to have some major medical bill issues, and he might have some issues with his eye or his eyes, I'm being told. But as far as like his faculties, like being able cognitive and being able to like get around and stuff, I think he's okay. But essentially, I just wanted to raise awareness for that. If you guys can, and maybe we can drop it in a link in the bio. Is that what the kids say? Link in the bio. Yeah, link in the description. Just a GoFundMe page for Luis Escobar, who is going to be facing some medical issues as far as payment and just needs some money. So if you guys could check the link, and if you got some money to donate, it'd be cool. And like I said, Jeff's a good friend of ours, and it just sucks to hear that something like that would happen. But
gosh, that'd be so. Oh, I can't even think of that.
Yeah, sad deal. Sad deal. I mean, something that you love to do, and I don't know. I was talking to Jeff about it, and he's like, "This is the best dude." He's like, he would bring his coffee every morning. So I was at the shop helping out. Really, just a super solid guy. So. I wanted to note that on the podcast, and just if anybody can donate a few bucks, it'd be awesome.
Yeah.
To Luis. So, help out if you can. With that, should we talk New Zealand? Should we talk about New Zealand?
Did we go there?
Are you guys going back?
I live it every night.
You do?
I'm still dreaming about it.
You are. Yeah, you are. That's right. You're a vivid dreamer, huh?
Yeah.
You told me that.
Every time I go to sleep, I'm back in New Zealand.
You're back.
I wish I could do that.
Is it good or terrifying?
No, it just rains so much. So much rain. So I keep waking up thinking.
You wake up and you're in the shower?
Gotta check to make sure my tent's not leaking. A little bit, yeah. Not as much as when I was younger.
You don't want to share a tent with Joe. Sleep talks, walks, dreams.
Makes for an exciting night.
Yeah. That was one of those hunts where I was in it a lot of the times, and I was like, man, this is pretty gnarly. I don't know if I will ever get the chance to come back, or if I would come back. And then since I got essentially back to, I would say pretty much by the time I'd set foot in the parking lot, I was like, man, I would die to do this again.
Literally, yeah.
You guys all feel the same?
So bad.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. I was, I mean, the whole time I was talking to Monty about just like hunts and what you could do and all that stuff on the ride back, because we were split up in 2 different cars. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where like, you think about how you could do it and when you could do it. Mm-hmm. It's like, I could do this like every other spring, where like I actually could do this every spring. I just wouldn't be able to like do any bear hunts or anything like that. Like to be the only hunt.
Yeah, just have to save your pennies.
Yeah.
So what'd you think? Where do you want to start, Brady? Do you want to start with getting there?
I mean, I will start off by saying it is a logistic nightmare in a way going to New Zealand to hunt and doing it how we did it. Like if we didn't have the help we did, like it'd be really challenging.
Break that down. When you say logistics, what was the hard part?
I mean, just everything from, I mean, flights are easy. You just got to buy those. But then like, you know, for me being a rifle guy, deal with my rifle permit. I've got so many messages that people had to like postpone their hunts because they couldn't get their rifle permit from New Zealand in time. Like, make sure you do it way ahead of time. I literally got my rifle permit 20 hours before I took off. I mean, like, and luckily we had the opportunity, you know, to, if we needed to borrow a rifle on the hunt from Cam because he was going to join us on the hunt. But like, that's always not an option for a lot of people to have that. Like, literally, people sent me a message they had to postpone their dream hunt because their rifle permit wasn't taken care of.
If you plan ahead, though, it should be quite doable.
Should be plan ahead, yeah. I mean, they're getting more strict though with rifles. I mean, like the process.
Say you were what, 3 months out?
Yeah, 3 months out.
So if you're 6 months,
yeah, you just make sure right away when you decide you're going to go that day, start doing it, and it takes a long time to fill out all that paperwork. They're really nice, like a joy to have conversations with the police department over there in New Zealand, but just make sure you do it way ahead of time because that's a logistical nightmare. Make sure, and on the logistics side, give yourself plenty of layover time when you land wherever you land in New Zealand for your hunt, because I almost missed my flight because of having to check in my rifle and then having to go, because like once you land, first you have to go through and go to the police area there and they have to inspect your rifle, but that literally took like 30 minutes. Like I was literally sitting there waiting for the police because I'm just on their time. And then I have to go through customs as well. And even though we know going in there, you have to have everything clean, like no dirt, no seeds. All the food we brought was like okayed food, so it didn't get confiscated. But like still, even though I had to go through normal customs and I had to declare like I have backpacking gear, I have boots, I have tent and all that stuff. For some reason, they did not like the Dyneema GOHUNT teepee that we brought, even though we've only used it a couple times. This new iteration of it, and it's basically brand new. They took it all out of my stuff sack and then said I'd take it to a lab. They have a lab in the back corner, and that took forever because they were analyzing my teepee. And then it comes back to me all like a mess. I have to put it away. Then I'm running through that airport, and as you guys know, like it was a long haul to run through it. And literally, they were nice enough. Again, New Zealanders are really nice. They held the plane for me to get onto it, which
I've never seen before.
Did you guys have any issues getting through?
No, me and you had the same.
Jill and I went through
and they were really
together,
easy.
and it was pretty quick. I'd say we were, from start to finish, we were probably less than 10 minutes, I would say. The only thing that they pulled out was they pulled out my boots. He wanted to look at the bottom of them, which I'd scrub those things clean. And it was, I would say the cleaner you can get your gear, the quicker it'll be, because he literally just took a glance at it and was like, oh, those are fine. And then asked me if I had a tent. I said yes. He said, can you pull it out? So I pulled it out. He asked me, is it clean? So I said, yeah, before I left, which I did. I was like, I cleaned it. I turned it inside out. I hosed it down. I let it dry. I'm like, no stems, no seeds, no sticks, and that thing. But yeah, it was pretty clean. And then he asked me if I had any food. I said, yeah, I've got a couple of dehydrated meals or freeze-dried meals. And he asked me if they had any pork or chicken, which I'd heard that you couldn't do pork or chicken. So I said, no, there's a little bit of hamburger in each one of those, but no other food, anything like that. And that was pretty much it. Like that was literally, it was pretty quick.
Should we backtrack a little bit though, and maybe talk about when we were in Las Vegas and we were going to take off? Like,
yeah,
your mess kind of there, and how you might prevent what happened there, because that could have been bad.
Yeah, the biggest issue I had was I checked my bow case in Las Vegas here at the airport, and I've got locks on my bow case. Omar, conversely, does not have locks on his bow case, and it went right through.
Oh yeah,
because he like you can utilize those because he has the built-in locks.
Yeah,
and so a lot of people will say that's totally okay, but I've also had it before where people say no, you still need locks on the outside. Again, it depends on who you got. But you can use what Omar did. So his goes in easy because doesn't look like he has something sketchy inside there.
Yeah,
no external locks.
I have external locks on mine, so it seems like I would say 90% of the time they want to walk me down to the regular where they check rifles in. They always ask you, do you have a rifle or a firearm? And I say no, because I don't. And then I walk it down there, give him my keys. She took it back. well, it was a gentleman at first, and he took it back, and then he came back out maybe 5 or 10 minutes later, and I was like, yeah, you've got some, there's an issue with your bow case. And I said, okay, what is it? And he said, there's some ammunition in it. And I said, I don't think so. Like, I've never had a firearm in it other than maybe a handgun a couple times. I've gone to Alaska. He said, yeah, we're gonna have to check it out. And so we waited probably another 10 or 15 minutes. And I guess a lady came out and she basically said, yeah, you're good to go, but you had some spent casings.
Yeah, she kept saying bullets and then a 45
bullets. And then she said a 45 casing. It was kind of unclear.
What that is, yeah.
Which to me seemed impossible because I'd gone through it twice at least before I put my bow in there. I asked her what caliber. She said a 45. I don't own a 45. So that was confusing. But essentially, finally, she said, yeah, you're good to go. But it probably took, 20 minutes, 25 minutes, I would say. I think, so we got to New Zealand finally, and I was able to open up my bow case. I think what happened is they took my field points. Mm-hmm. So I think I had 3 or 4 field points, which were all gone when I got there.
Do you think then it was because your field points were loose, or did they come open from something? So maybe if you're flying, put them in like a little plastic case or something like that, and maybe label it.
Yeah, I had a box of broadheads, and those were all like individual cases, packed away kind of in the bottom in a cardboard box that I got them from their severs. Mm-hmm. And then I had, some field tips that were loose. So those were all gone. So I'm assuming they confiscated my field tips, and apparently they thought they were bullets.
Mm-hmm. And for an untrained eye, you could kind of see it because okay.
Really?
Yeah. Look at a field point objectively. Like, take all your knowledge of hunting out. You don't know whatever thing. Remember I had a discussion before where like there's movies I've watched where literally the whole cartridge is flying through the air.
Yeah.
Like no one caught that. It's not just the bullet tip. Mm-hmm. So like, a field point looks like a bullet tip, and obviously you have threads on it, and maybe they think like you thread that into the bullet. Like no one, like who knows? Like
if I lived under a rock.
You lived under a rock, yeah.
If I'd never worked at an airport before.
So that was, that could have been.
I don't know. Yeah, I think it's a far stretch, but whatever the case may be, yes.
But then it added so much stress because it was like literally unknown.
Yeah,
and you kept asking if you could see it, and they wouldn't let you see it.
Yeah. I know, which was strange.
So the whole flight, you're like, what did I lose? Because I've had the thing before. I almost lost a release because I thought it was brass knuckles, and like.
Yeah, that was my main concern, is that I would get there and not have any broadheads.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a bummer.
You want to talk about your other slight little debacle?
Yeah. Omar and I both lost our brand. Yours brand new?
Mine weren't brand new.
Mine were brand spanking new. I'd never even used them, so they were a couple of Nightcore
ND10,000s,
Nightcore
Gen 3s.
Yeah, brand
amazing power banks.
Yeah, they're 5.6 ounces, slim, carbon fiber, super sexy. Battery charging packs, external packs. I had those in my check bag, and they confiscated both of those, which is a major bummer because those are about $60 a piece, I think. So
yeah, we think they made it all the way to New Zealand, which is also the problem, and then they got confiscated on our New Zealand bump from Auckland.
Yeah,
to Christchurch.
And I had a third one in there that had been like my favorite one ever. I think at some point when I was hunting with Neville, it had found its way into my backpack, and I just kept it, and I'd had it for about 6 or 8 years probably, and I loved that thing. It was awesome. Always held a charge. I'd get like 4 charges out of that thing. I loved it, and I lost that one too. Sorry, Neville.
So that's why that. but that's why that could have been. I mean, luckily for us, we made do. But like, we literally were a long ways away from anything. Mm-hmm. In our last little hotel, we stayed at a little Airbnb, about ready to go in the mountains, and that's when you found out you had no charge banks. And then we're on for 8 days of hunting, and we know it's going to be raining, so we're not going to get any sun to charge anything. And then you kind of need those if you're either going to run maps, you're going to run digiscope footage. You want to take photos because you're in New Zealand, and now you don't have charge banks, and you have nowhere to get them.
My 3 biggest travel issues were, 1, the bullets they said they were in my case. That was a problem. 2, my battery packs that were packed away, and my check bag, which apparently you can fly with them in your carry-on.
You can put them in your carry-on,
Okay, so I had to put those in my carry-on. And then 3rd, the first night that we stayed there at an Airbnb, I got up and I took 2 pairs of boots, and 1 pair of the boots had the shoelaces were completely chewed out.
Which is wild. Because the place seemed pretty nice, but there's in the mountains, so.
Yeah, and I don't know if it was mice. I assume it was probably mice.
Giant rats.
I mean, I don't know what they got over there, but my shoelaces were chewed up.
Were you like?
It worked out in your favor though. You tested out some
It
new
did work
boots.
in my favor because that was like the pair of boots that I lost my laces in was an older pair of boots that I'd worn quite a bit over the years, and that was the pair of boots I was planning on wearing. And then the other pair I'd only had for maybe 3 weeks, and I'd put some miles on them, but nothing crazy. I was a little bit worried that I might have some foot problems, but I ended up wearing those, and they were great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, can't say enough good. So the boot that I ended up wearing that I loved was the Scarpa Zodiac Tech GTX, which was awesome. So it worked out in my favor.
We're gonna do a little video on the boot choices coming out this week, so it should be like Friday. So if people want to know.
But any other travel issues that you guys had?
One more we kind of had, which we kind of knew about before, but they're really they're cracking down on batteries when you're flying around. So like Omar and I think Joe dealt with it too, like the AA batteries. So like obviously I flew one whole carry-on bag, had all my optics in it.
Yep.
And obviously I have stabilized binos with batteries in it. So the way there it was fine. And I didn't have any floating batteries rolling around. But they really said if you're gonna fly with batteries, you need to have them like in cases that the positive negatives can't touch together, because positive negatives, if they touch the wrong way, it could make a spark, and if it's below the plane, they said it could make a flame. So like, if it make it easier on it, just like take some tape and roll over each individual battery, or take like for me for the binos, they're like, okay, just take one out because mine took 2 batteries, and then put that battery somewhere else in your bag that's not going to touch another battery, or just keep them in the original packaging. So I think Omar lost every single one of his batteries coming back home, right?
Yeah, I was like I had just like a bunch of just like because I keep like a bunch of spares.
Thankfully, you had some spares because I had to borrow some of yours at one point.
Yeah, so I just keep like a bunch of spares like in a bag, like just for people that I'm hunting with, or if I need batteries, stereo pin, all that stuff. So just I threw all my spares into my bag.
Yeah,
and that's what got me in trouble.
And then for people listening, what was our layover once we got to New Zealand? Was it 2 hours or 3 hours?
I think it was like 2 hours and change.
Yeah, so I would think you probably want to have at least 4 hours.
Yeah, 4 hours to be safe. Yeah,
it was probably a 20-minute walk, I would bet, from the 2 different terminals, international, domestic.
Yeah.
So if you have a firearm and you're landing in New Zealand, make sure at least a 4-hour layover before your next connection. Obviously, it could change and you could go in there and be super easy, but
once we got to New Zealand with bows, we didn't have any issues. It was pretty easy.
Yeah,
with a bow.
I'd say if you're traveling with the bow and if you're traveling to New Zealand, it's going to be pretty easy. Just if you're flying into Auckland, there's like a 15 to 20 minute walk. And I don't know, like hindsight, if you could make it work out with your flights, it might be nice to have the 3 hours. That way you could like sit down and have like actual bite, real food, because you're in the air for the last 16 hours or so traveling. Well, we were, because we traveled from Vegas to LA, and then I think the actual plane ride from Los Angeles to Auckland was only 12 hours.
Only.
Yeah.
Felt like 30.
I did 5 hours yesterday. So
you're a traveling man.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, we had that long layover coming back in LA, and we were still pretty close.
Yeah.
Because that was a long wait with your rifle.
Yeah. What was that one? That was probably another 3-hour layover, and we probably should have had more time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, I've heard before from a lot of people, like, avoid LA at all costs if you're traveling international on a hunt, and we got to see it full hand coming back.
It's so hard though.
Yeah.
Like we should avoiding LA, because your other option is San Francisco.
Is it? Can you not go to like Washington and then Washington out? Is Washington international, like Seattle?
I think when I was looking at flights, our only options were LA, San Fran, or Canada. So like all those 3 are not the best options.
Yeah. Because like,
why can't we go to Texas?
Yeah, because going to LA was the reason I didn't
stop at Buc-ee's.
Hey, hell yes. You're going to put one in Arizona?
Now we're talking.
I saw it on Instagram over the weekend. They're going to make one in Arizona.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's out of Phoenix. That'd probably be decent.
Yeah, it's out of Phoenix somewhere.
Yeah, that probably wouldn't be bad.
But like, because traveling through to LA, I couldn't bring my suppressor because everyone said it's going to be just hell trying to get there, and they're also not legal in California. But then I'm taking the weapon back because I had a weapon, and then like we're all kind of in a party. They all like flagged every single one of us, and we all had to go wait because of me.
Guilty by association.
Guilty by association.
Exactly. Yeah, I had my bow case gone through 3 times in LA.
Yeah.
I just kept saying it's a bow. The one guy opened the case because I told him it's a bow and arrow. He opened the case and was like,
"What kind of firearm is this?"
"That's a bow." I was like, "Yeah. I've never seen a bow like that." I'm like, "Well, it's a bow." I can show you on the Google if you want, but he was pretty nice. But yeah.
So that took forever, and they kept saying we have 4 rifles, and I was like, no, there's only one, just me. These guys can just go, but we're nice. And
Yeah.
The guy ahead of us, he was having a rough day.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah,
he was getting destroyed.
Oh, I thought you meant the guy before that.
Oh, the guy before that too. Like he had to pull out all these documents.
The guy before them that had what was it?
It was like
Do you remember?
some like stay away warrant or something like that, right?
yeah. He had apparently he had some issues.
If you have some legal issues, the whole LA airport will find out about your
all the people in the waiting will hear all about your orders.
Because they're definitely yelling the whole time when they're talking to them. But the only cool thing was in LA that customs guy, when we actually got downstairs and he looked through my case, he was like, "You got any photos from this New Zealand trip?" And I started showing a bunch of photos of the Tahr. Yeah. So that was actually kind of cool that you actually seemed to care a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what did you think of New Zealand when we got there?
I cried.
You did?
On the airplane when we landed.
You did? Really?
Yeah, oh yeah. You guys know I've always wanted to go to New Zealand.
I thought that was the sweat from you running to the next flight.
I did too. You were crying?
Yeah, when we touched down in Auckland, I teared up. Yeah.
That's awesome.
I just have things that mean a lot to me in this world, and like that always meant a lot to like go somewhere really unique and cool. And I've always wanted to go there because Lord of the Rings aspect, but also for the hunting and everything too. But it's just like I'm in an amazing place and I have amazing life, and I was like just excited about it.
Yeah, Joe, you'd been there before.
Yeah, this is my third time being there, but never in that capacity.
Never disappoints.
Yeah, it's just I tell people because I've been in Switzerland quite a few times, and it's like Switzerland but without the people, so it's even better.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, so that's you hear. I think you see posters that says pure. It's just like untouched almost.
Yeah. What thoughts did you have, Omar, about New Zealand when we got there? Just town, travel, people.
I thought it was like sweet, like going to go see like another. I always tell people I don't like traveling unless it's like for hunting or running. So like it was like pretty cool to go so far away, and like something that I'm so like passionate about like brought me to this place. So it was cool to experience another culture, and then like finding out they like Kiwis love freaking hunting. Like kind of already knew that, but like they love hunting, and like the places you can get in New Zealand are some like gnarlier spots that I think we later discovered are like if those guys came to the States they would
have
it so easy.
Yeah. They're beasts. Like they're mountain warriors over there.
Good outdoor rec vibe. Yeah. Felt like, I guess the thoughts that I had since I've been back thinking about it and just, talking to my kids about it, what was it like? I thought it's super clean.
Oh yeah, that's another thing.
Like
too.
I was really surprised just how clean it is. It's really green. Houses seem to be really well upkept. There's like no open garbage cans on the street. Everything's enclosed. We stopped and ate on the way. We stopped at like a little bakery. Tons of like baked goods, pies, cheesecake, all kinds of pastries were awesome. We had some meat pies, which those guys were like, "Oh, you got to have some meat pies." And like right away, I was like, "Oh man, the food's incredible. The food was really good."
Even remember we went to the grocery store?
Yeah.
The grocery store was super
really
well
clean.
kept. You start looking at ingredients and some of the food there, it's like legit ingredients. It's not like shit food. I also noticed in the parking lot there was no like random carts sitting around. People actually put away their carts, which I'm amazed about because no one does that here. They're assholes.
Yeah, it was really clean, like really orderly, really modern. Everything was like new. It felt like I kept saying that. I think to Cam, I'm like, everything looks new here. It looks like it was just built.
Yeah.
Like care was put into it though too. Like it's well thought out.
Yeah. So we did our grocery shopping. We picked up anything that we needed that we didn't bring over. So meats, cheeses, like lunch meats.
Some freeze dried
meals.
Wow.
Uno cards.
Yeah, Uno cards. Yeah. Yeah, I bought some sweets. I bought some candy. But yeah, it was really clean.
Some lollies.
Nice. Yeah, some lollies. Yeah, some lollies. But that was good. And then should we just dive into like first day?
First day, yeah.
Yeah.
First day into the suck.
First day we parked. So our plan, and at the end of this we'll talk about if we do anything differently, but our plan was we're going to backpack in, right?
Yeah.
So park car, everybody out of the car, all your gear, load it up in your backpack, organized, ready to rip.
Before you start that one, we landed in Christchurch. After we got all the food, how long did it take roughly to get to our destination?
I didn't even keep track. I was car sick.
He was in the backseat car sick. Yeah,
it was like 6 or 7 hours.
Was it really that long?
Yeah.
So like we traveled all the way from the States, came over, like got the food that we needed, went to Cam's house, made sure bows were on, And then we decided, all right, let's just put our gear into the cars and then drive the 6 hours. When we get to our hotel, we'll organize gear at that little town. And then like had food or whatever, woke up super early, and then now we're at the trailhead.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was that long.
Yeah, it was super long.
Joe and I were just in the back of each individual vehicle, just car sick.
Yeah.
It's really windy. We drove past some cool country, saw some
Where
really
Narnia was filmed.
Yeah. Saw some really neat country. But yeah, I was thinking as I was driving, I don't remember the last time I drove in the back seat of a vehicle. And I don't remember ever getting car sick as a kid, but I was pretty car sick by the time we got there.
I almost did in the front seat because it just keeps feeling so awkward and weird that we're on the left side of the road the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I don't feel like comfortable. I don't know.
Yeah.
Something weird going on in my head where it's like, it feels like we're doing something wrong.
Any part of you want to take the wheel and drive?
No.
Oh, I did. I kept thinking I want to drive. Looked like fun.
So that's another really good part about, like I said, the logistical nightmare, like being able to have access to Cam and Monty. Like,
yeah,
be able to pick us up, their vehicles, be able to transport us, don't have to deal with renting vehicles and figuring out how much gear is going to fit in, which we've done before on other hunts, and it's possible, but just like that adds more stress to your trip that you probably don't need, and it's just
for sure.
It's pretty sweet to have that.
Hitting the trail.
Mile in, we're wet. Maybe 2 miles in.
Yeah. How did you feel hitting the trail?
Packs were heavy.
Packs were stupid heavy.
Did they feel heavy? Mine didn't feel that heavy.
No.
Did yours?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, yours was stupid heavy.
Yeah.
Because yours, you had a bunch of camera gear,
Bunch
and
of
your
camera gear.
rifle.
My again with like the gear side, my regret was carrying too much ammo.
Uh-huh.
Because I felt bad. I mentioned multiple times that like I wanted to just carry enough ammo in case like you bow hunters needed to use the long gun. So I carried way too much ammo that I probably didn't need, and maybe jab Omar a little bit more to want to split weight on the shelter right away in the hunt,
which ended up working.
And yeah, Omar just kept saying, "You're a beast. You're like a diesel engine." I'm like, I know.
Get it, beast.
Get it. I'm like, so he's like pumping me up. So I'm like, hell yeah, I can take all this weight. So I carried the whole shelter, stakes, and the pole. But that was fine. I was like which was crazy because I kept messaging my girlfriend. She's like, you're like walking behind everyone. This is like unreal. Like I thought you were like the fastest hiker ever. And I'm like, I'm also have a lot of weight, but I'm also just like soaking up the scenery. Like every step we took and around every corner was just like the most amazing thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, it's like first day we're in a new country that you've never been in. It's like that newness that just kind of carries you through. Everything feels a little bit lighter. Yeah. You feel okay. You feel pretty good because everything's so new. You're like taking it all in as you're going, so it just seems to lighten the suck, I guess, a little bit.
It wasn't long into the hike. We saw our first red deer track in the sands, which is cool, even though it's just a track. But it's like, hey, there's red deer here.
I saw a decent number of tracks actually, which I was surprised. I didn't think we'd see that. Relatively flat, I would say, for most part, other than the dips.
Yeah.
The dips and the climbs.
I mean, there's so much water coming out of the mountain, so you always have a dip, always have a crossing, always have something going on.
It's just technical.
Really technical.
That's like the best word for it. Super technical. Most technical hike I've ever done in my life.
Yeah, rocky roots.
River crossings.
Yeah.
Talk about that one.
Yeah, that's when it kind of got real for me. It's probably 2.5 miles in, I would say, maybe 3. We got to a crossing, and we've been crossing creeks, and my feet were wet, but my feet were still pretty dry, I would say, for the most part. And then we got to a point where it was just like, oh, okay, we're going right through a river, like full on river.
And the funny thing is too, like earlier when we were doing some crossings, I was trying to like avoid getting my boot wet. I was like trying to step on some
go around
boulders and try to go around. And then we got to this point and I was like, oh shoot.
Yeah. So it was, I can't remember who I saw go through, but they
saw Cam go through.
Cam. Yeah. Cam was like up past his waist.
It was legit past his waist. And he's also a hobbit.
Yeah, so he's probably 5'6", 5'7", I would say.
Sorry, Cam.
He might be 5'8". I don't know. Sorry, Cam, if I shorted you a few inches. But yeah, it's shorter than I am by a little bit. But yeah, he was up past his waist, and I was like, oh, man, that sucks. Did you guys think that sucked?
I watched you guys both go through, and then I watched Trail go through. I'm standing right behind him. I'm like, oh. I was like, there's no way to go around, and there's like a waterfall here. I think a nasty waterfall above us. Like this is the only place to go through. Yeah, it was up
to the bottom of my pack. I was like, oh man, now I'm going to be wet for the rest of this hunt. And I was thinking, this sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't super pumped about that.
Then the funny thing though is like I went through it and all you guys were like, dude, it only went up to your knees.
Yeah.
That Cam's like, how does it only go up to your knees? I'm like, I don't know. I stepped in the same spot you guys did.
I don't know. I think you found your spots and you're just taller than us.
Yeah, he was able to peek down in the water. And then we had that like hellish climb right there too. So like you're soaked.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's what sucked. That was I think the first technical hard bit was the rocks and the log, and then like we went straight up.
I don't know if that all like washed out probably from like water. That's why the trail kind of got messed up right there.
Yeah,
and that was interesting.
Yeah, I feel jaded looking back on it because I know there were many times when I was hiking and I was like, this kind of sucks. Like, man, it's like really technical and it's a lot of terrain that like I'm not real comfortable with, like some steepness and cliffs, and you're just like hiking into the side of a side hill, you know, where it's not all that wide. You're like getting footholds that are not all that big. And I was like, I'm uncomfortable a little bit. And I don't know. I was taking it in, but there were times when I was like, that kind of sucked. But then, I don't know. I have a short memory, I guess. Because looking back on it, I didn't think anything of it. Yeah. And I felt like I got more comfortable the longer it went. I think it's like any hunt that you go on. And I talk to people a lot from, the Midwest or the East Coast that come out to hunt the West. They go on an elk hunt. A lot of them are just like, oh, man, it was just like way worse than I thought. You know, it was further, steeper, higher. You know, I needed to be in way better shape than I thought that I needed to be. I think it's just because you don't have expectations. Like you don't really know what you're getting yourself into until you actually put boots on the ground. You can kind of like talk to people. You can see it on YouTube. But until you actually like get out there, you don't really know what you're up against. So I think it's the expectations that get you.
Yeah. I saw a few comments already on some of the stuff we've shared, but do you think it would have been feasible to take your boots off every single time we needed to cross?
I don't think so.
Because there were so many.
There were many.
And they were deep and technical.
Yeah.
Like the boots helped obviously grab on rocks and how turbid the water was. And
I know in the States when I've hunted areas where I've had river crossings, like I've packed like waders, like hip waders. But usually, and then I've used those to cross the creek or the river, and then I've just like left my hip waders and then gone up. But then I'm not in it all day every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is I mean, whether you cross through a river and you're up to your waist and that's what gets your boots wet, or if you're just hiking around through the vegetation, like you're just going to be wet because there's so much water and everything. There's just water in the air.
Yeah, and there's times where we were like on a legit mountain, not down below, but we were still in like marshy ground, like benches with this wet marshes, and you're walking through and your boots are 12 inches down in the mud.
You'd step barefoot onto the soil and the water would come up over your foot.
Yeah,
because it was just so saturated. Mm-hmm. We did get a lot of rain though.
Yeah.
So we hiked and hiked. How many miles did we go in before we stopped at that first spot?
Close to 10.
It was like 10 miles the first day.
10 miles the first day. And we stopped at a hut.
Yep.
To kind of take our eat a bite. That's when I got introduced to these little biting sand flies.
Oh.
You were sitting there in your boxers.
Yeah, I was sitting there in my boxers, took my pants off to hang those up to get a little sunlight on them, hopefully dry them out a little bit. And it was nice just to like get some air to your feet. But then I started noticing these little black flies. Like
they're tiny.
They're tiny.
Yeah.
Teeny tiny. And I was thinking like, oh great, no crazy mosquitoes or anything like that. I did see a mosquito, but it wasn't like a problem. But yeah, all these little flies, and like you'd feel just like this tiny little bite, like little tiny annoying bite, like not hurt, but just like annoying. You'd brush them off. And then I found out like a day later that I don't react well.
Yeah, you react really badly to those things.
Yeah, man, my feet blistered all over. I still have them all over my legs, like pretty much from my shins down, tons of little sores.
And just like the worst itch at night.
Talk about drove me bananas. I'd be laying in my sleeping bag just like scratching. Yeah, just absolutely ate my feet alive.
Can you imagine going there during the summer?
No.
They're like
full
force everywhere.
I would never take any clothing off. I'd just be covered.
Yeah. What'd you think at this point is when we put our eyes on Tahr for the first time?
It was really cool. Yeah, it was like later that afternoon, right?
I think we glassed them from the hut.
Yeah, from the hut.
Did we see some from the hut?
Yeah, they're up in that. Remember, they're up in that big giant
vertical face.
You're like, I don't think you could go over there. And he's like, oh yeah, you can kind of go over there. We're gonna end up going that way with the trail later on. because that leads up to that little.
I barely remember that. The one that I remember the most is we ended up getting to a spot that night and we camped.
We were going to camp, and then there was a hike up to the hill.
Yeah, we're going to hike up to a hill. And we're going to just
the hill was a straight up mountain.
The hill was not a hill.
It was not a hill. I was thinking it was like a 100-yard bump.
1,000-foot climb.
I just remember him saying like that'll be like 20 minutes, and like I think we probably were an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I would say
And
into that to get to the top.
I had the down puppy on, and then I had like the atmosphere on top of it, and I was just like drenched.
You hiked the whole way up there in that?
Yeah, because I thought it was a hill.
Every time we were,
because again, I didn't know when he said hill. I'm like, okay, it's going to be 20 minutes. I can go slow, but all of a sudden it was just straight vertical. I'm like, maybe it's going to stop. Maybe it's going to stop. Maybe it's going to stop. So I kept it on, and I was just drenched underneath.
Yeah, we got up to the top of that evening, maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours before dark.
Yeah,
and got to sit in glass, and like that's the one that I remember because we saw
that same Tahr from the hut. The one on the right.
Yeah, but it was like I actually got it in my scope, and I got to just sit there and watch it.
It was close up. They were 450 yards away. That one.
I remember 2 bulls.
Mm-hmm.
Was there more than that?
I just remember that night. Morning we saw more.
They were on this giant face that was like pretty much completely cliffed out, like damn near vertical, and there were like a couple little bumps here and there. That there were these 2 bulls and some nannies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a bunch of nannies.
It was super cool. Just to sit and watch. That's what I remember.
Mm-hmm.
I have a bunch of video of that one, but I remember looking at it thinking, that's a freaking cool animal.
Yeah. And
Really
then, like, you couldn't even hunt those.
Yeah, like, I mean, we could have shot them with the rifle, but like recovering it would have been pretty sketchy and pretty dangerous. And you probably could have found a way to go up all that, the Fangorn Forest side. That's what I kept calling it. It's just so thick. But the hut I want to talk about quickly, that's where I donated a bunch of gear that is still in New Zealand. So hope some Kiwi enjoys a solar panel, because I wanted to bring a solar panel, but the 2, we'll talk about it later, are some regrets, but the 2 good days we had, we hiked in on, which was sunny every day. And then once we got there, like redid my in reach, and I was like, oh, it's not going to be sunny all the rest of the trip. So I ditched my solar panel, which is my favorite solar panel, ditched my Graxaw boot dryers, because like my boots are just going to be wet. There's no way this fan is going to do anything, especially since we didn't bring the stove in the teepee. And then left some fire starter and some P-cord there, and I think some other random stuff. But gone for good.
You were ditching gear,
ditching gears, ditching weight. I thought we were going to be able to like get back to that hut, but we didn't.
That was the original plan, was that we'd get back to here, but I think we the next day we realized it was again like another day of hiking,
and then we had to maximize all our hunting time, and because of the weather window shit. So,
so we stayed that night on the river.
Yep,
pretty much. And then the next day it rained. We hike that day?
We hiked the next day was another good day.
Yes, the next day, another great day. Super sunny. So 2 days. And then that day we pretty much hiked the entire day.
Yeah.
We did get back up to the hill, and we stopped there in Glassroad, and those Tahr were back out. And that other one was kind of a decent Tahr.
Yep.
In that back little corner, but we got to watch them again. That was pretty sweet.
Yeah. But we hiked that entire day.
Yeah. Got to another hut. Did the same thing, tried out some gear, ate some food.
But while on that hike, though, this is where it got like even more technical. Like we were going through the forest where, like, I've said it before on the hunt, like Cam and Monty, if these trails, like quote unquote trails, were in the United States, they would like be illegal.
Oh yeah.
Like they're literally like you have a chance to die all over the place. And I'm not trying to like say, oh, you're dramatizing it, but like no, legit, you do. Like some of this stuff was like straight vertical on like a little cliff, and all you had to hold was like roots. So you're like trusting your life to literally roots. And like digging your feet into the wall, or like stepping on a root, or that one with you, Joe, when like you literally had like, it's like some sort of washed rock and there was no moss on it. So it was super slick and it was wet. And you had one root that was like kind of swinging.
You had to reach out for it. It wasn't like it was right there.
Yeah, you had to reach out and trust that you're going to grab it. And then you have heavy backpacks on, and down below it's literally like, I don't know, 10 feet of rock and then vertical face.
Because I slipped right as I grabbed it. My feet came out.
You did?
Yeah.
Yeah, because if I would have fallen,
you almost went over.
It would have been a slip and slide.
It would have been slip and slide straight down.
Damn.
If I
like you guys were already up, and
Joe, you almost went.
Yeah.
No way.
And like you're trusting your whole life.
I didn't know that.
You're trusting your whole life on that route. That's what's scary.
Dang.
Did you have any other moments like that?
No, not like that one.
Anybody
the other
else?
one was with you on the stock, but I didn't slip. But that was like my feet kind of went out, and then I had to hold on.
And you're literally your shoulders against the wall, so you have no room, and your backpack keeps hitting things. And then like there was another branch above that like my pack kept like catching on. You kind of had to move away from the rock, and it's all slick.
Were you behind him?
I was behind him.
And
So
you
I
were
was
just watching this?
I was watching it, yeah.
What'd you do?
I'm like, move forward. I'm like, oh. And then he like was able to grab a little bit. Like, do you need help? Like, what do you need to do? Like,
well, bye.
Yeah.
I think I
guess,
actually,
guess we're not filming this one.
yeah, I think you had the big camera out at that point too in your hand.
I was holding it the whole time.
And I was like,
Oh,
hey, do you want to
wow.
like come back and like strap at your pack? But you kept going through there, and then I had to go through it. I kind of got like sketched out too. Like, shit, this is real.
I didn't know that.
But like all that shit was super technical. Then like that's where we went like straight vertical up through all that other stuff. And there's other times where it was just like you come around the corner and you're like, fuck, you got to go up that. And your packs are just stupid heavy. And a lot of times you're crawling on the ground. Like
There's
literally
a lot of
fours.
those. I got so sick of those, like getting down as low as I possibly could with my pack on my back and like trying to inch under it. Or I'd be like, hey, can you grab my bow and I'll climb down and then I'll grab your whatever. And away we were, okay, can we throw this pack over to you so that we can climb over this cliff to get up?
Every time I caught up to you guys, I was like, oh, crap, it's a technical spot.
Yeah, that's why
that's when I would catch up to you.
But I will say, you're hearing from like 4 Americans. So the 2 Kiwis that were with this cruise through it, like it didn't exist.
Yeah. But it's like you're saying though, like you learn what you can trust and what you can't trust.
Yeah.
And they were really good at that. And also, just understood the task at hand. But like, there was a lot of times you're like, oh, we're going to go up that. And like your whole body gets worked. Like your core, everything, because like I said, you're bending over, you're crawling on the ground, you're standing up, you're navigating it, everything's catching because I'm a tall human, tall rifle sticking out. Like, you guys as bows, all your dampeners were gone off your Matthews.
Yeah, I lost some dampeners
because you're using your stabilizer as a walking stick.
Yeah, I was glad I had the 15-inch front bar because I was sticking that thing into the face and using it for a climbing stick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just sticking it in the mud and just using that for leverage to climb up while I was grabbing with the other hand. But how many miles did we get in the second day? So we did about 10 the first day.
It was like 5 or 6.
Yeah, it was less, but it was more technical.
Took us pretty much the entire day.
Yeah, what were they saying? They're like, oh yeah, 1 mile is way different in New Zealand because 1 Kiwi mile here is like, I don't know, 3 of ours. It's like
probably
just because of the technical aspect of it.
Yeah. Yeah, it took us most of the day. I know that.
Yeah.
Do you see some of the trail signs too that we're hiking by? They didn't say distance in miles or kilometers. It was like hours.
Yeah.
The one spot to one spot was like 12 hours. It said it was going to take.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we're going there.
Next 15 hours. I was like, oh shit, really? Dang it.
Yeah, and then Monty and Cam like, no, I don't trust that. I'm like, I don't know. I'm kind of trusting it. It's like we're like an hour off.
Yeah, those guys were constantly waiting for us.
Yeah, they said we were slow.
Yeah, they moved through it pretty quick. So we camped the next night again by the river.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So we're probably at that point 16-ish miles, I would say, in.
Yep.
Approximately. Next day.
We had rain. Like that's a day that we were all in the tents the whole day. Because we couldn't hike. We could just glass from camp and stuff. And we were seeing Tahr, but they were up high. So we made a decision, like, let's just wait it out here all day and kind of, I guess, recoup and all that stuff and fuel up. Because the next day we had another good day and we're going up.
Yeah, that was
the
kind
last stretch.
That was kind of tough. We were sitting there that one night. I can't remember if it was during the rain or not. But we had that one Tahr across the river. Remember him?
Mm-hmm.
And he was rutting around, chasing that little nanny, and like it looks like you could put a stock on it pretty easy. Like, oh yeah, Brady may go over there and shoot with a rifle, but like you look at that terrain, and the next day we found out why you really can't because that shit's just thick.
Yeah. So we're essentially at that point 3 days in, right?
3 days in,
and we're not even to where we wanted to hunt.
Not even where we wanted to hunt yet.
So we get up the next morning. We have a bit of a weather window in the morning. Well, I guess the whole day, right?
Whole day, yeah.
The whole day was good.
Yep. So we got a weather window. We decided we're gonna make the trek up.
And we woke up early that day.
Well, got up early, hiked in the dark. To try to maximize the weather window.
And then we hopped in the river right away.
Oh, yeah. Man.
Remember that in the dark?
Yeah, straight to the river, up to
to
your
waist.
knees.
Yeah.
Then we went up through the bunch of the scrub to try to avoid the deep stuff.
Yeah. That was... After that, I was like, oh, man, here we go.
It was dark.
I think that day was like an actual day, especially like going up some of those spots and like getting down low. I was like, what am I doing here? Like, I'm not having fun right now. Just crawling through a forest.
Yeah, and this part was like a hunter's trail. So it was like only a trail if you knew it was there. And it was like, again, technical.
It was really technical.
Trees everywhere. They're like, oh yeah, don't attach anything to your backpack because it's going to get probably torn off.
Yeah. Yeah, walking sticks were null and void because you needed at least a hand to try to hold yourself onto the hillside.
And this is where I made one mistake. Because luckily I brought the Sig Cross rifle as a foldable stock, so it can actually fit lower in my backpack.
I didn't even think about that. You're right. That was probably good.
That was an A+ decision bringing that rifle on this trip. But the thing I was stupid about is I kept my bipod on my rifle.
Just grabbing everything.
And so like the two legs on the TriStar bipod, but luckily it has the head's a ball head. And so eventually it caught enough branches where it was sticking up vertical, like along my rifle, and it flipped itself all the way around and was then hidden on my backpack, but it was still slightly catching some stuff. So like the smarter decision was when we hiked back out, I took the bipod completely off and took the legs apart and was able to then like put that bipod in my backpack. It's like there was no chance we were going to hunt right there. I don't know why. It's just a normal thing I do in the States is keep my bipod on in areas that are like, I'm never saying something's thick again. Like, oh, I have to go to this little thick area because that was thick.
Yeah, I'd say anybody wanting to do it, and if they're backpacking through a bunch of that scrub, I would say just get your profile as small as you can get it. So like
tighten your backpack down, all the straps, everything.
Anything hanging off your backpack, shrink it down if you can. If you can get it below head height, it's major advantage.
Yeah,
because there was a lot of times when again like we would go up with something really technical, and then I would try to turn, and I felt kind of sketched because like the tree or branch was pulling on me and then kind of pulling me backwards. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to fall backwards.
I kept thinking
that was weird feeling.
I kept thinking if I am going to fall, it's going to be because something grabs a hold of like my pack or shoelace or something like that. And it just kind of throws my balance off and I'm going to go toppling off the hill.
Do you hear Cam when he kept saying about like, oh, it's not that bad if you fall? He's like, it's not that bad if you fall because like you can't go that far. You maybe break a few bones, but like it's not going to be that bad. I'm like, that sounds pretty bad.
I don't know. I would say most of that face, I think if you fall on that, you're probably going to fall a ways.
Yeah.
Like you're going to tumble quite a ways, especially with 50 or 60 pounds on your back.
Yeah.
You're going to get
only 60. Jeez, must be nice.
Oh, I was light. Yeah. I went with pretty much my same elk setup. I bet I was just having done it for the number of years. I would say I was probably right around 55 pounds.
What?
Yeah.
How fun was that top section there? When we lost the trail for a while, we were just like zigzagging back and forth, crawling in the mud.
It was crappy. I was curious as to your guys' perspective because Omar, you probably never hunt anything like that.
The closest thing I think about is like some areas in Washington are thick like that, but like you never really hear about too many people like hunting in the thick stuff. Like most people are just hunting the roads and glassing like the clear cuts.
I had some reference because I've been to Kodiak before, and Kodiak's a lot like that. It's really steep. It's really, really vegetated. A lot of that alder in Kodiak is as thick as a carpet. Like you're essentially, it might take you an hour to go through 100 yards of alder. It's just thick as dog hair. And I've been in that mindset before where you get into that stuff and you feel like almost claustrophobic. You feel like, oh, I'm never going to get out of here. And you almost feel like a panic set in, especially if you're like totally doing it on your own and you're trying to fight your way through it. Like I've had moments in Kodiak where I've been like almost a panic and I've had to sit down and like take a little breather, take a moment, collect my thoughts and be like, you know what, this sucks. I'm really frustrated and burning a bunch of energy because I'm just fighting it more than I need to. I just need to like relax, realize it's not going to last forever. And I just need to keep pushing and I'll get through it. So like I had some reference. So I was curious to see you guys that maybe did it get in your head at all? Did you ever feel like, oh,
I remember like there was like one time where it's like, I wish I didn't have everyone here with me because I would probably just like sit down and have a bite and like, comment because I was like to a point where I was like this like I was just like getting negative.
Yeah, and you had a little negative set in.
Like I wasn't like saying it out loud like screw this or mother effing anything, but I was just like this just really sucks.
Yeah.
And then it got to when we got like almost like to timberline, that frost line, and I had these gloves that were soaked and everything was just cold. And then again I was like, oh man, like this is terrible. And
Joe and I kept talking, like our hands would be frozen and you seemed to feel like you couldn't do anything. And all of a sudden they'd warm up.
Yeah, it was weird.
And then freeze again. And then you got to the top like you're talking about. And I don't know what those thick green.
Like the tussocks, right?
Is that what those thick green ones that like kind of look like they were pokey, but they're not. But they're all frozen and had water on them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then you're getting wet again, but everything's already wet. But now you're getting even colder wetness. And
did you ever have any moments like that, Joe, where you're just like, oh, I'm frustrated, this sucks?
No, because that hardest hike, I had finally put my camera in my pack, so I had both hands. So I felt a lot more comfortable because it was like a ladder almost with the roots.
Yeah.
But
having the bow in hand did kind of suck.
It totally sucked.
Yeah.
There was a section coming out where Omar was below me and I had to hand him my bow off this cliff to like work down to it. And then he had handed his bow off to Cam or Monty, and they took your bow and like walked off. So Omar took my bow and just like walked off, kept going down the trail. And at that point I had 2 hands to move. And I was like, oh, this is an entirely different experience.
Yeah.
Like I felt like Spider-Man. I'm like, oh, I could totally do this. I got 2 hands free. This is completely way easier.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was definitely an observation, but I didn't have any mental like, ugh, you know, I would say on pretty, like I've had them on Kodiak several times where I was like having a little panic attack almost, but I didn't have any on those.
I think my mental were like in the morning when I had to put my wet socks on and my wet boots, and when it was really cold. I think that was the only time I was just like, ugh, this sucks. But then it warmed up pretty quick after that.
Yeah, that first night I remember everything being completely wet and talking to those guys, and I was like, what do I? Because you and I had the conversation that night before, like our boots are totally wet, socks are totally wet. People had told us like bring multiple pairs of socks. How many did you bring, Brady?
I brought 4 total.
No, four pairs of socks.
I brought 4. Because Cam told me last minute to throw 4 in.
Yeah, people told me you'll need lots of extra pairs of socks. Looking back on it, I wished I'd have just taken 1 pair.
I wish I would have condensed down to 2.
Yeah, and that's what I took was 2.
Just because we're going to talk about, I'm guessing every day you're just putting the same wet pair in. And it's like, you know you're going to be wet. And if you put that dry pair in, it's just going to get wet right away because your boots are already slightly soaked from the night before.
Totally soaked.
So like it's pointless.
Joe and I had the conversation. He's like, I'm going to put my dry socks on today. And I was like, you are? And he's like, yeah, I'm going dry. I was like, yeah, sounds cool. I'm going to put my dry socks on today. And within 10 minutes, they're completely wet, totally saturated as much or more than the other ones.
My idea was it was going to absorb the moisture and then they would eventually dry out. But then we had the other river crossing. So it's like, well, that's out the window. Yep.
Yeah. I had wet socks the entire time. Like wake up in the morning, put your foot in a wet sock, and so wet that you're wringing the thing out before you put it on. A good amount of water out of that thing before you even put it on your foot. It's just a wet sock every single day in a wet boot.
In a wet pant.
A wet pant.
Wet pant, yeah. And then a lot of times too, I try to take my insoles out, and it's like maybe my insole will dry overnight now.
I left mine in the entire time.
Yeah, the whole boot's still wet. Everything's wet on them.
Yeah, my boots went from being relatively lightweight, they're an all-leather boot, decently lightweight, I thought, to just like, it feels like a 10-pound brick on each foot. It's just completely saturated. But anyway, so we break out, we get to the top, we hike, we're above timberline finally. We're actually finally on the, third day? Fourth day.
So
we're
do you want to talk about how long it took? So I texted a girlfriend, it's like, we made it to the top 4 hours later, and it was only 1.2 miles.
Yeah, it took
us 4 hours to go 1.2 miles. It's that thick and nasty.
And we got a little lost.
Yeah, we got a little lost at the top, but like,
yeah,
that's pretty like mind draining. That's when like the point where we were talking about, do you ever get frustrated? And I was just like, sometimes I start like angry hiking. Yeah. You're just like pushing yourself through, like getting slapped with branches, and it's like, whatever, just gotta push through.
Worst. I got slapped. I actually got pretty mad that one time where I got like slapped by a branch, and it was just like, it took me back to like,
I was hiking ahead of you guys. Any branch I could find that I thought might whip you, I was just really bending it back.
That's what was going on.
I'm like, hey, Omar, whack.
There was one that like,
and then I would giggle.
And I thought my contact popped out, and I was like,
oh, no. For real?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't really do that, by the way. I'm just teasing. But yeah, you lost contact?
No, I thought so. Like, it like hit me that bad, and like my vision got blurred that I thought it fell out.
I never got to the point where I was like angry hiking or felt like, ugh, you know, like it's probably the first hunt I can think of like that I was like, man, this is great. I just felt great. I felt euphoric.
The time in there, because I was so tall that I was like, this is miserable being so tall. This is the only time I said I maybe wish I was shorter, but then my girlfriend's like, do you really wish that? I'm like, nah, I really don't. But like, like you guys like literally like hobbit holes everywhere. You guys are like sneaking through, and I'm like, fuck, I have to go through that. Like, really?
How about that time, Omar? It was funny because I knew it was going to happen because I had done it, but not to the extent. But I stepped in a hole, like in a bog, and it went like up to my thigh, like mid thigh. And then here comes Omar along. How deep did you get?
Dude, I was waist deep in mud.
Yeah, because he tipped over.
And like half my body was just covered in mud.
Oh, was that one time?
Yeah.
Then literally like, I don't know what it was, a quarter mile later, we found that stream, and you just literally squatted down in it. Like, I'm showering right now. I got to shower all the mud off.
Yeah.
Just like sat in the water.
I just kind of laughed with that one. I was like,
Yeah, I was by myself when that happened, so it was like mid-thigh. I was like, oh, that sucks. And I just kind of worked my foot out and then kept hiking, and then I was just relishing in the fact I can't wait till Omar gets to that mud hole. He's going to go so deep.
Dude, I felt like I was like Shrek in the swamp.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
We crested the top.
Yeah, we get to the top, and
something to our left.
Yeah, we start seeing Tahr.
Tahr was like less
200 yards.
I was gonna say less than 300.
Yeah, it looked like it might actually be in a decent spot to put a stock on, but as we broke out, we were kind of immediately underneath it, and they picked us off pretty quick. We started seeing Tahr. That's one thing I will say. I was a little bit surprised at how skittish they seemed.
Mm-hmm.
Like I didn't anticipate them being quite as like aware, like picking me off as quickly as they seemed to be.
From far away too.
From quite a ways away.
Yeah.
Yeah, like any movement, anytime you got skylined, anything like that, seemed like they were picking you off quick. I was like, oh, I didn't really anticipate that. I thought it'd be a little easier.
Mm-hmm.
But that surprised me. We ended up working, we found like a good camping spot. We had like a nice bench that Monty had kind of identified that thought it'd be a good camping spot. We ended up working our way down to that and making camp.
Yeah.
That was really nice because the weather was good that whole day. It was nice to like actually pull my sleeping bag out and drape it over a rock or whatever, my tripod, and like let it start to dry out a little bit.
We made a yard sale.
Oh yeah, there was gear scattered from hell and half acre.
Yeah.
I mean, it was all over.
Like straight sun, so like everyone's just racing to dry out everything. I took everything out of my backpack, trying to dry the outside of my backpack.
Mm-hmm. Like that was kind of funny because I think those guys were like, "Okay, let's go hunting," and I was like, "Oh, let's just spread out all our gear and lay here and eat food, recoup, right?" Yeah, but then started seeing Tahr, right? He had a spot he thought would be good. We could look over and kind of already see some Tahr on it, so we just made the move. Again, I mean, were you guys at all when we first started up that first one after camp? I was like, oh, here we go again. We're going to be busting brush for another 2.5 hours.
Just thick. Yeah.
Yeah, because I put my camera away again. I was like, oh, it's here. Here we go again. Put the camera away. And then we bust through it. He's like, get the camera out. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, that was like a quick That was actually a quick one. Like we covered that one pretty quick, probably 20 minutes or something. Still sucked. Yeah. But it was way better than I thought it was going to be because I thought, oh, I'm in for this for another 2 hours.
And then after we had camp all set up, we had to put our gear in the tents because the Kia birds.
Yeah, saw some Kias.
Yeah.
Kias are cool.
Kias are super cool. I know those guys say that. And Cam showed me a pair of binoculars, I guess, that he left out where the Kia had pretty much pulled away all the eye cups.
Oh, really?
Yeah, chewed them up.
Wow.
Yeah, chewed them up, pulled off big chunks. Yep. We didn't have any issues with them as far as being in camp or anything like that. But get up to the top there and we start seeing Tahr. And then what? I'll let Brady take it from there.
Oh. Yeah, we saw a group of Tahr across the basin and looked like a good bowl, kind of like in this scrub area, but also some cliffs nearby. And I thought the bowl was really cool because it had I don't know what it was, 15 plus nannies around it. And it's kind of like a dominant one. So we were like, okay, let's go put a stock on it. And kind of felt weird being the guy putting a stock on it when I'm a rifle guy and you guys are bow hunters.
It was like end of the day though, right?
End of the day, yeah.
What do we have? Maybe 4 hours?
Yeah, I think it was like 3 o'clock.
Three.
And sun was going down like at 7:20, 7:30.
Yeah, kind of the position they were in. It was like, we're probably not going to be able to make a run at them with a bow. Yeah. So Brady took off.
Yeah.
Brady and Joe.
And I think we needed something down. At this point, it was 4 days in.
We needed a morale boost.
We needed some back straps.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was me, Cam, and Joe. We kind of went off and started run hiking, getting over there as quick as we can. And I mean, Trill was trying to tell me to shoot right from the glassing spot. He kept like, you could shoot right here. You could just shoot right here. Because I kept looking at me and just like pulling the trigger. He's like, you can just do it right here.
It was 415 yards.
I think it was like 500 something.
It was under 5 for sure. I kept ranging it and I was like I didn't want to say it was like 470.
It might have been. Okay, I think it might have been that.
We'll split the difference.
Yeah,
it might have been 470, but I was something. Like, that's a real makeable shot. Like, I tip that one over from right here.
I would love to, as most people know, but it's like, gosh, the range is so easy to like move closer. And I got to make this count because like, I don't want to like blow up the whole basin too being a rifle guy. And I feel bad stalking for archery guys, but like, like I said, I wanted to get something down. So we stalked in closer and then all of a sudden the topography like changed to the point where we couldn't see him for a while, which helped because we could sneak in there. Then we ended up getting really close, and we crept up on this little area, and there was a lot of tar. There's way more bulls than we thought there was. And then I'm getting ready to get set up, and then Cam turns over to me and is like, "Hey, you mind shooting my rifle?" And I'm like, "What the F? What do you mean?" And I was like, I just carried, like, I think my whole setup, 10.5, 11 pounds of Sig Cross with a bipod and 30 power scope on there. I just carried this thing 19 miles into the mountains, and you want me to shoot your rifle because his is suppressed and mine's not. Mm-hmm. So he's like, I really don't want you to blow up the whole basin because we're going to only have like a couple day window to hunt. I'm like, I get it. And he had, somehow New Zealanders had service up there, like cell phone service. And so at one point he set his phone down, and I could see his text message to Monty, and he was like, Brady doesn't feel comfortable with my rifle.
Yeah, Monty and Omar and I are sitting back to the original spot. We're just hanging out watching a spotting scope, filming everything.
Like, what are they doing?
What are they doing? I kept being like, kill that tar already.
Yeah. And so
let's get this going.
Like Cam and I are having a discussion. I'm like, I'm not, he's like, it's a great rifle. I'm like, I know it's a great rifle, but like, I have mine that literally I dialed exactly for this. All my reloads, everything. To work all the permits last 3 months.
Is that what you guys are doing, is having a debate over there?
Yeah.
Yeah, me and Monty and Omar were just sitting there, and I was like, they're going to screw this up. I'm like, they're not going to get one.
Yeah.
I'm like, they're flat going to F this up. Here we are sitting, and those guys, I don't know what they're doing over there. Playing cards, it looks like.
Yeah. So like his rifle's sitting there, and my rifle's sitting there. My rifle still has the rain cover on it, and his is ready. He's like, I want you to shoot mine. I'm like, okay, I'll do it. That's why I wanted to like get extra close. And then we actually snuck even a bit closer. So we got to like 260 meters, which I believe was like around 300 yards, somewhere close to there. I was like, I can do this with your rifle. And this is a custom Hardy rifle. It's a phenomenal rifle. But again, I've never shot it.
We have no communication with you guys, but I'm sitting there looking at what I think is the biggest bull on the hillside. Mm-hmm. And there are like, how many other bulls? 4?
There's like at least 4, yeah.
4 other bulls, I think.
Yeah.
Bunch of
50
nannies.
nannies it looked like.
There's so many nannies. There's way more than the 15 I originally saw.
Yeah.
Like they're everywhere. You look.
Yeah, so I was sitting there filming the bull I thought you were going to shoot, that we thought was the biggest, and he kind of bedded. And then, then we finally look back down there, and we see you in the gun. Mm-hmm. I was like, I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah.
And then bang.
Yeah, so I got prone, and so this is the funny side. Internet could rip me up if they want to. So it's the first animal I ever shot with suppressor. And then, do you know what the cartridge was that I used?
I do. I know what it is.
Yeah.
6.5 PRC.
6.5 Creed.
No, 6.5 Creedmoor.
Ooh.
So yeah.
Arms wide open.
Yeah. So yeah, that was also a little hesitation too, because I'm like, I have a 7 PRC right next to me, and no knock to. I mean, knock to a 6.5 Creedmoor. I just don't really like them. But then Cam's a 6.5 Creed. I'm like, okay, I'll just put it in the shoulder. Like I'm literally gonna aim right in the shoulder, and take this tar out that way. And then the tar was kind of like pushing around another tar. The one tar kind of slipped on they were on like a sheer rock face, and it kind of slipped. And another thing, I was like, I was looking through his rifle scope, and it's a 15 power max, and my rifle scope's a 30 power. So I'm like, oh, my 30 power would be so great right now in this situation. I can put it like on the exact hair I want to shoot on the shoulder and touch it off, because like I just love more magnification. But finally they separated off. I'm like, you ready? And I didn't even ask if you were ready, but I thought you said something. Mm-hmm. But I was like, if Cam said he's ready, and I knew someone was digiscoping at least and doing something. So the tar stopped and just pressed the trigger, and tar rolled down the mountain. It's one shot, done.
On our hill, we were like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah.
I was like, I don't think you could even see that one that we were watching. And then kind of out of the corner of my eye, I thought I saw one roll like down the bottom. And I was like, oh, he must have shot that lower one. But
yeah, we didn't see any. Like I said, there was like 4 different bulls right there. Yeah. 2 definitely ones that we could see. It's a lot of other younger ones. Mm-hmm. But yeah, he jumped out, and I asked Cam back and forth which one he thinks bigger. And he's like, oh, I think this one might be like, 12.5 inches or whatever. And I was like, yeah, I'm happy with that.
Yeah, you crunched it for sure.
It rolled and then stopped, and then all of a sudden started rolling again. I kept trying to look down other cliff areas, like I hope it doesn't keep rolling. Yeah. But it only went, maybe rolled 20 yards down a little cliff and somehow got hung up there. So that was sweet. And then
Omar and I were sitting there with Monty, and Monty's like, well, I'm going to go over. We're like, okay, cool. We're just going to hang tight, be a spotter. We're just going to look around, see what we can do. And it was hilarious because I think the time it took for him to get from us to you was, I couldn't believe he was there.
He like teleported.
I was like, that guy is magic. Yeah, absolute magic. Just ran right over there to you guys. I was blown away.
And there was like a big river crossing.
It took us, 40 minutes, 30 minutes? I think he did it in 6.
Yeah.
Maybe I named him wrong. Maybe he wasn't Sam from Lord of the Rings. Maybe he was Gandalf.
I don't know what he was, but yeah, but he teleported over there. And then by the time he got to you guys, Omar and I were sitting there, and then another one popped out.
Yeah. And then I think Cam was like, Joe, get on the gun.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure you guys...
Did you anticipate, did you think you were going to shoot one?
No, I didn't.
Had you put any thought into it on this trip? You're like,
thought.
If I get the opportunity.
Before I
never
talked to
heard you say
Brady,
anything.
before I talked to Brady, I was like, I think I want to shoot one when I get out there. But then, like, the permits and it being complicated. And then I just didn't want to take away from the film. I was like, I'm just going to plan on not shooting one.
Mm-hmm.
But then right in the moment, it was like, hey, it's like now or never.
It's standing there. It's a great situation. We're all there. We're all laid down.
Yeah.
We obviously know the gun shoots.
And I was like, I think I asked Omar, I was like, do you want it? He's like, no. And I was like, okay. I think with it like 2 minutes, just popped it off.
Yeah.
So I didn't.
Joe was quick on the gun.
Yeah.
There was no debacle going on.
No, I think too much on a rifle.
Well, I did it so fast that they didn't film the shot.
Almost.
Yeah. Because we were looking at it. And I was right.
They did get it.
He got like he's trying to adjust the spotting scope as it goes off, and you just see like a shake in the camera, like and then all of a sudden you see it like tumble.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know.
Yeah, he has just like this much of it.
Because he was feeding up and he was about to disappear, and my neck was so kinked from my
you kept
position.
saying you're going to scope yourself.
Yeah,
and then
I
I mentioned him once, like you might have to do it within the next like 5 or 10 seconds because like he's going to get behind that cliff. I don't know what other guys were doing, but yeah,
I was filming.
Yeah, and I'm over there just like, hey, there's one. You should shoot it. Just shoot. How about that one? Shoot that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was cool. I definitely didn't anticipate shooting one.
Yeah.
When in Rome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I was stoked for you, both of you. It was really neat. And then you guys made your way over to those bulls and ended up finding them. And Omar and I just got to sit and hang out and shoot the shit and look at. We looked at how many more bulls across the canyon.
I think there was 3 down low, and then that one popped up behind us.
One popped up behind us. We filmed a couple across the drainage, and like they were all rutted up, chasing nannies and all puffed up. So we just sat there and watched those for a while.
Yeah, watched you guys do your trophy photos and get some back straps.
Yeah, Omar made a run at the one behind us, but it just was on a beeline, running away from us. I don't think we ever got more than 200 yards. Oh, I think at one point we were like 110 maybe. It was across the canyon, remember?
Yeah.
When it first popped up?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it kind of just kept going.
Yeah, he was on to us.
Yeah. We thought we were in actually a decent spot. We thought maybe he was going to feed behind this little knoll, and we could use that to like cut the distance. And by the time we popped up and around, he was like a half a mile.
Yeah.
He was like cutting country. And then, go ahead.
No, go for it.
I was just gonna say, Omar and I hiked back in the dark that night, and I had to let Jesus take the wheel. By Jesus, I mean Omar.
Oh,
Jesus.
I got it.
Jesus.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was like, Omar, leave me to camp.
Yeah,
which he did.
That's what I was definitely glad we had Camp Mark because you're constantly going back in the dark and things are fogging over all the time. It's like it's a place where you can get in a scary situation. But I was going to say that like before that when we were all grouped together before I made the stock, like watching these Tahr walk around is the most coolest thing ever. Like, I mean, we said it before in the podcast before we went, but like they look like a muskox mix between like a grizzly bear, like all poofed up and like looking at their manes and trying to like, you're judging horns, you're judging mane color. And like, they're such a cool animal.
When they're dead away from you, they look like a grizzly. Because they got those silver tips, like blondie hair. They have the hump in the shoulder. You can't see the head. And then as soon as they turn their head, they got this little head, with these little horns.
Tiny little head.
Tiny little heads with little horns. But they look like a grizzly to me, like especially when they're dead away. And then they got these cool, like dorsal looking stripes that kind of come back, which are blonde. They're just a cool animal.
So cool. And the cool thing too, when Joe shot, you noticed it too, like his mane was blowing forward. And like it was really cool. Like you can use that as a wind indicator for like how you're going to shoot at it because like literally the mane was like covering it. It looked like covering the Tahr's eyes. It was blowing so hard when you take your shot.
Yeah.
And then one thing I was also surprised about when I walked up to my Tahr is I say they smell really, really good. Like it's like a weird, sweet type musk smell. Like they smell to me really, really good.
Tahr Musk by Brady.
Tahr Musk.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, wear it as cologne.
We can make a lot of money. Yeah. I really enjoyed the smell. And it's like, when you walk up to them, they're big. Like they're chunky.
Yeah.
They're kind of hard to move around, and like their hooves are just, you know, well built for that country. And obviously their mane is super cool. And
so you caped it out. What do you think the cape weighed? For shoulder mount, I should say.
Yeah. I mean, I did half body.
Okay.
So I had the hooves, legs, everything like that. Then I obviously take
front hooves, front legs.
hooves, yeah. And I went way back to the back hindquarters where I stopped it. I don't know. I wouldn't even be able to judge. It felt heavy.
50 pounds? 40?
40 maybe, yeah. Decent. And everything's always wet everywhere. So like he wasn't soaked then because it was a pretty decent day, but like
pretty thick hide. And I would say the hair there around their mane's got to be a foot long.
Yeah.
At least.
I did notice too, like when you're caping them out, like you can be pretty quick on it because like they do have a lot of, like it is thick hide.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about your knife punching through. It's not like it's like a pencil hide.
Yeah. We got back to camp that night, and that was a fun night.
That was a fun night.
Like looking back on the hunt, that was one of the things. Yeah, me too. Probably one of my very favorite parts was just that night at camp.
Best weather night.
Yeah, good weather, stars. I mean, clear sky, and then we did a full fry up. So you guys cooked a bunch of meat over the fire.
Yep.
I packed in a couple of cubes of butter. So we just basically boiled some up in some butter, and I packed in some seasoning, which was like a garlic, pepper. And yeah, Omar and I did mashed potatoes, bacon, and Tahr, which was awesome. That was a good feed.
Yeah, we got I was answering
did campfire.
Yeah, I was answering a comment earlier about why didn't you guys take the stove for the teepee? And like, so we gathered what we could for wood, like the driest wood, but it was still all really wet. And like you saw how long it took us to actually get a good fire going. We actually had to take the like your camping stove and like crank that on and like stick it underneath there and trying to get that fire going. Like it took a long time to get a small fire, and everything's pretty small up there stick wise. So like there would have been no way we could have had a stove.
I would say pretty much every day but that one. We couldn't have got a fire going.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a fun night.
What'd you think of the Tahr meat?
I thought it was good. It was chewy.
Chewy stuff.
For sure. Yeah. For a bull, I mean, I don't know if a nanny would be different, but it was chewy. And I also don't know if it's just the nature of how you cook it. You know, maybe you get a chance to age that thing a little bit and shave some of the skin off and you know, fry it at home. Like a regular steak, it might be a little more tender, but give it some time to break down maybe. But it was chewy. But it was good as far as flavor goes. Like, I mean, I've heard people say that like they didn't like the taste of it. I thought it tasted great.
I thought it tasted fine. Yeah. I mean, I just put mine on a stick and charbroiled the hell out of it.
Did you guys? Did you eat any? Oh yeah, you ate some of bowl.
On a stick, and then I did in the mashed potatoes and the butter.
Do you think it was chewy?
Yeah, it was really chewy.
Taste?
It tasted good though.
Tasted fine.
Did you ever have any of Cam's flat rock method?
I didn't.
Yeah, I wonder how that went because he kept having sticks fall on it and ashes everywhere.
Really charred from all the ash.
Yeah.
I think I ate it. It was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, from his flat iron. But I actually ate two. So I like the one that we split, and then I was like, oh, like I got Mexi nachos, like one of like the meals.
Yeah.
And I got Mexi nachos, like the flavoring. And I was like, oh, it'd be good if I got another one, and then put it over the fire, like charred it, and then like had like some like crunch to it on like the meat. So I did that. Got like 5 or 6 pieces of Tahr.
So you had Tahr nachos?
Yeah, Tahr, and that was really good too.
That sounds pretty good, actually.
But I had messed up like previously, which is probably like on my part. Everything over there is like in kilojoules in terms of calories.
Yeah, kilojoules.
So I didn't even know like what I was looking at when I was like looking at the packaging.
Yeah, for a while we thought it was a lot. We actually thought there were calories. And like one of our meals actually had a conversion thing, and they're like, oh, okay, that's what it is in calories.
Yeah, so I ended up getting all the meals that were like 400 to like 600 calories, I think max.
Yeah.
And then so I was like pretty much like the whole trip, I felt like I was starving.
Until we got
Did you feel pretty hungry?
I was hungry
until we got
every
some protein
single
in
day.
this.
Yeah, then that day, that's why I was like, I'm going to eat Tahr for days here.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that was a fun night. I look back, like I said, looking back on the trip, that was one of the highlights for sure.
Because you're able to sit there like a true camp, like have a campfire, tell stories, like soak it up, talk about the suck we've been through the last couple of days.
Slept good that night.
Yeah.
I dried off my boots pretty much and my sock. I dried off my socks so good that
everybody dried off
made a
some
hole in
gear.
there.
Yeah. No, it was fun. The next day was supposed to be a good weather day as well. So we got up in the morning and took off.
No,
it was a rain day.
Yeah.
Rain day all day.
That's right. I forget. I'm losing days.
Yeah.
Rain day, yep.
Yeah, next day it rained the entire day again.
Yeah, we drank a lot of coffee. We played a lot of Uno.
Yep.
Basically sat around. Yeah, I only took 18 photos that day.
Joe and I watched Lord of the Rings.
We did 2 towers.
Yeah.
We watched the entirety of Two Towers, and then was it that night? Did we watch part of the second one, or was that a different night?
I think it was a different night. We
Different
started
night.
the other one.
Yeah.
You watched
Return
Two
of the King.
Towers and Return of the King.
Yeah.
I was reading Two Towers. And then at one point, that night I killed the Tahr. I think we were watching Two Towers too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we spent that next whole day in camp, huh?
I got so bored I heard out Joe's bull. That's
Yep.
like usually I don't want to get like bloody and dirty if I don't have to.
Yeah.
And I was so bored. I'm like,
Yeah, I was like, "Are you sure, man?" I'll let me do it. And you're like, "No, I'll do it." Like, all right.
Oh, yeah,
I'll
that was
film
the
you
day
doing
I
it.
sat underneath. I sat underneath the other guy's tarp too, and I basically fleshed how bored I was. Fleshed my entire Tahr hide.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot to do,
No.
and it poured the whole day.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we had that. It was a dry riverbed right by our camp, and after that first day, it was a full-on waterfall, which was pretty cool.
That was cool. Yeah. How
Yeah.
quick that turned.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Yeah,
we had to do a little excavating around some of
Yeah.
our shelters. We were doing some drainage ditches.
We were all told to bring ice axes, which I'm glad we did now because we used them to trench
Yeah, the trenching.
that
Yeah.
divert all the water.
Yeah. 'Cause it rains. And like you said, when you step on that ground, the water like literally goes like it kept going over my Crocs. Like if I would walk around, it would go into the little Croc area and bend
Yeah,
through.
Joe's tent was pitched right in a little bit of a divot,
Yeah.
right, and it kept getting full of water. Mine was too to some point, so we
Well,
ended
it
up
was
having to
strategic
trench it
because there was a
out
little hump in the middle.
Yeah.
So I was dry, but then the water was still kind of
around
pulling
you.
up around me.
Yeah, a little island. Next day, is that the next day when it
Next day was a good weather day.
Yeah, thawed out a little bit. I shouldn't
that's
say
when
thawed, but
that's when we went
couldn't
up
rain.
went up left of camp, and then we had that Kia. There's two Kias right above us, and we were kind of fogged in for a little while
Mm-hmm.
and kind of sitting there.
do you remember going up that vertical face?
Yeah.
After like resting all day, my calves were on fire.
Wasn't that the day you were torched too?
That was the worst day as far as me physically. Like I didn't have any weight really in my backpack other than just like my optics and some food for the day.
Yeah.
And hands down, that first climb out of the tent that day, like my calves were smoked, and I hadn't done anything the entire day before, like other than lay there. But yeah, I remember lungs, legs, like I was suffering. I was this is gonna suck. Yeah, that was a bummer.
Yeah, I have us still together in the morning, kind of waiting for the fog at like 9 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
We were still trying to wait for that fog to break, and we were glassing, I think, some tar up above us on the tops, but like that fog would never go away. So it took forever because the mountains are so steep there for the sun to actually break through to help burn off a lot of that fog.
Yeah. What point did we finally split?
So somewhere roughly after that, because I have some photos here. Let's see when I have photos of me and Cam by ourselves. Nope, there's still trail. Kia.
So it was like mid-morning, 11 maybe.
Yeah, around there.
Yeah,
maybe
it's
a little
probably
earlier.
around.
So me and Omar and Monty took off,
Yeah,
and we were like, Monty's like, we're gonna climb clear to the highest point,
to the saddle.
to the saddle. It wasn't quite the highest point, but it was like the main ridge, right?
Yeah.
We had saw Tahr over there, right? That's why you
Yeah,
guys
we'd
went that
seen
way?
some. Yeah, there'd been just a stream of tar.
Oh, yeah, they went all
kind of
along
working
that
that
whole
whole face all
Yeah.
the way down the ridge, kind of working their way all the way down, almost real similar to where you ended up shooting yours.
Yeah,
You
there's
and-
actually
you
some
and
at one
Joe.
point on the same rock I shot him on.
Right. Yeah. I remember that being quite a climb. I remember being kind of physically dusted that
Oh, yeah.
day.
That was a climb for sure.
Yeah.
And then you're all sweaty, get to the top, and you're all wet.
Yeah,
then
and that
you
was the
just
first chance we
cold.
had to look over into the backside of that next drainage, which was absolute
Steep.
I mean, holy hell.
That's.
Just
I remember
nasty.
looking at that, and I like would get nauseous just from looking at it.
Do you guys have photos of that basin? 'Cause I've never seen it.
I think I might have.
video.
Or some video,
Yeah. But it was just so cloudy, so you could never
Oh.
get the full depth of
Uh-huh.
it. But for reference, too, we went from sea level to like 6,000 feet.
Total.
Yeah, I think at the highest point we might be like 6,500
Oh,
feet.
really?
Yeah.
And that's what was crazy too, because we hiked in, you could see the ocean behind us.
Yeah.
To all the way where we were.
Yeah. We got up to the top and hit the ridge, and we just started working the ridge. We were kind of working along, and we were hiking along, and we kind of bopped over to the other side. And I think we were all sitting there glassing, and Monty came back, and he's like, hey, there's a really good bull just over the backside of this ridge. He's like, I think he's in a good spot for a stalk. So I grabbed my bow and nipped over there, and he was working perfectly. He was all alone. He was like working up this ridge, and there's like one little perfect knoll between us and him. And so we drop down into the little divot and get to the bottom of this little knoll. I start crawling up. I crawl to the very edge of it, and I'm kind of working along on my hands and knees and pop up over, and it's just like nothing, just completely no tar at all. I was like, what the hell? Because it was like less than 2 minutes probably. It was really quick from the time we got down to where we popped over. And I kind of look back at Monty and Joe, and those guys were a little bit higher on the hill, and like Monty motions off, but that bull, for whatever reason, had gone right up the ridge and right at the pivot point. Like he has to make the decision to either keep going up the same ridge, which I'm getting a phone call. If he had gone up the ridge, it had been a 38-yard broadside shot. Or what he did do was he turned and walked right around the edge of this little cliff and then walked straight into the bottom beneath us.
And we think that was probably the biggest tahr we saw on the trip.
Yeah. Monty thought that was probably the biggest bull we saw the whole trip, and he was within a minute of really getting it. So I don't know why he did what he did. We ended up seeing some more tahr below there. We didn't know if it was the same one or not, but there was a group of nannies that were kind of off below. We didn't know if he'd like smelled some hot nannies and then just pilled off. Hot nannies, that sounds funny.
You couldn't even like get to those tahr though, right? Without getting a little sketchy.
Yeah, there's no way we probably could have. I mean, unless we went all the way off and around.
Yeah.
But so we bought back over, met up with Omar, sat down, and then we kind of kept working around the face. And as we work around the face, looked down, and there was two bulls that were kind of bedded on this little bench below us. And I remember asking Omar, I was like, what do you want to do? And Omar's like, go for it. And I was like, okay. And I just went. But like, I don't know why we didn't rock, paper, scissors or nothing. I've kept thinking about that.
Really?
Yeah, there was like zero discussion. You were just like, go for it. And I was like, okay. And I went. But I look back on it, I'm like, why don't we should have at least drawn straws?
I like other people like doing their thing. I don't know.
Yeah, that's the thing, is I would have been just as happy as if you'd have gone as if I'd have gone. But yeah, I just remember it happened so quick, like really fast.
I was like, I had like popcorn, not actual popcorn, but I was like enjoying like the show, like watching you guys go down and everything. And then I think part of it too is just like, I feel like that, I don't know, like it was like so much stress, I think, that I like started like to like get that premeditated stress almost. And I was like, you go.
a little bit of a buzz. Yeah. I mean, they were probably 200 yards.
Yeah, they're close.
I would bet when we saw them, they were really close. We had to make our way down through this little chute, and then we had to like squirt across this little face before we could get into this other little canyon and like cut the distance down and then kind of pop up above them. But that was the only time on the trip that I actually like physically froze out of a little bit of fear, because I don't really like heights. Monty had gone across this face, and there was one point where, and it wasn't like completely vertical, but it was steep enough that like had you slipped or gone over, like you're going to roll, and there was nothing to catch you. Like,
because for the most part, you could hold on to some grass whenever we went somewhere. I think that part, there wasn't anything to hold on to.
Yeah, it was pretty well just face, right? Yeah. How far do you think we'd would have fallen? 50?
Yeah, like 50 yards or something.
Yeah.
It would have been a tumble, though.
It would have been a tumble. It would have been nasty.
I slipped down.
You did?
On my way down, yeah.
You slid down that?
Yeah.
No way.
Like slid down probably like 10, 15 feet. Lost the arrow.
Oh, you must have come in a little lower?
Yeah, I was like crossing this like face, and then like just like I was just going for a ride.
It was so steep that my hip quiver on my right side of my body, like if I leaned a little bit, like my knocks were pushing into the dirt, and I had to put my foot on this one little rock. And I remember like, okay, I need to put weight on this foot and take this next step quick. And it was like, I don't know if this is going to hold. And I got to a point where I was like, I don't know if I can go forward, and I don't know if I can go back.
Stuck.
So I just stood there for probably, a minute? 30 seconds?
Like 30 seconds, but probably, because I did the same thing right after you.
Did you?
I kind of froze up.
Yeah, I just like froze. I was like, I don't know if I can go forward, and I don't know if I can go back. And I hate that feeling. And then finally I had to like have a little talk to myself and just say, all right, well, you can't go back. You're just going to have to like trust it, put your weight on that foot and go as quick as you possibly can and hope that it holds. And so I did. It was sketchy, but made that down. And then from there, like we basically just shot down this little canyon, popped up on this little knoll. And when we popped up above on this little knoll, these two bulls are bedded below us. I ranged the closest one, which is the smaller of the two. He's 48 yards. The other one's 51 and a half. And from then it was just like a matter of like waiting for them to make a move and stand up, trying to shoot the bigger bull, obviously. I think we waited probably 20 minutes, and we had two younger bulls came up and over, and they fed underneath us, and then they turned and like were feeding right up towards us. And at one point, I think the smaller of the two was probably 7 yards maybe. Wow. And then they ended up bumping, and they kind of ran off, and I was like, oh, the gig's going to be up, But the two bigger bulls just kind of like didn't pay attention to them, and they ran up and over and disappeared. And I was like, okay, now it's just time to wait. The little one got up and fed for a little while, and then he bedded back down. And I think it was like right around the 50-minute mark. I don't know if it's probably the same two bulls, huh? Mm-hmm. Just fed back over and did the exact same thing, like fed out ahead of the two bigger ones. At this point, the two bigger ones got up and started feeding. I could have shot the smaller of the two several times, like he was broadside within range. And then at one point, the bigger bull turned. I would say he was like maybe ever so slightly quartering to me, but mostly broadside. He's like 40 yards. I'd ranged him probably 4 times, and I was like, hey, this is it. So I like go to draw my bow, and then Monty that was with us, he's like, hey, just wait. And like you get that feeling in your back of your head. You're like, I should probably take this shot, because like my theory's always been like, take the first good shot that you get. In hindsight, like looking back, I felt like I should have taken that shot, but to his point, like, yeah, they were feeding right towards us. So it was like what might be a 40-yard shot's going to end up at like a 25-yard shot or a 20-yard shot, right? So just waited. But what ended up happening is the two younger bulls like kind of got out ahead of the two bigger bulls, and the way the ridge lined out, they eventually like broke our line of sight, like that we were like in full view. And the bigger bull at that time, totally broadside. Monty up the hill is like 30. So I drew my bow, and like in that motion of like starting to draw my bow, the two little ones saw us because we're in like full view. So they bugger and they take off. I get to full draw and I like ease out, kind of come down. The bigger one's kind of like looking around and ended up shooting. But he said 30 yards. I shot it for 30. I think looking back in reality, it was probably closer. It's probably like 25, I would say, maybe, which is super close, obviously. Shot was high, maybe 3 inches, I would say, like under the top of his back on the entry side. Hit him. He like jumps 5 feet in the air, turns, runs, takes off. But as he's like running off, he looks hard hit to me, like full pass through. It was like that classic arrow, like sucking sound, not like a whack, So I didn't feel like I hit any bone. But he goes up and over and jumps over this bush and then just dives down. And there's like a series of 3 canyons off the backside of it. I ended up looking at the video and like, the offside video, it looks like it enters, below the spine, maybe ever so slightly on the entrance side. And then to me, if you look at the video, it looks like it kind of exits his like armpit, maybe like even with his elbow on the opposite side. So I'm thinking like 1 lung at a minimum on the offside, but end up linking up with everybody, go down, start gridding, looking for blood. I end up finding the arrow. We find the arrow and just like full pass through, good blood, total arrow covered in blood, but like legit not a drop of blood. Like I don't think I ever saw a drop of blood.
Wow.
Not one drop. Not a drop from the point of the arrow, not a drop from there out and beyond. Anyway, yeah, spent the rest of the afternoon just like looking, hiking down the ridges, hiking off each ridge, looking down through the canyons, sitting and glassing for 2-3 hours on each little knoll, and just couldn't pick him up. So
heartbreaking.
It was a real bummer. I never worked so hard for a shot opportunity, and then to have that really sucked. Looking back, there's like hindsight's always 20/20. There's a lot of things that you can like say and think that you should have done. I wished I had a shot at 40, to be honest, because I felt like I had a solid range with my rangefinder that I decided my bow in with. So I knew it was exactly 40. He was completely unaware. The other Tahr were still back far enough that I probably could have like slunk down, drew my bow, then stood before, like any of them would have seen us. And I probably would have had like a good shot at 40 yards where none of them were really aware that we were there. So there's like part of me that thinks that. Of course, it's really hard to, completely flub a 30-yard shot, but, and I don't know that I did per se. I just think it was super steep. It was a 40-degree angle, downhill, a lot more technical shot than you might think. Internally, we've had some debates. I think he was probably mortally wounded. I think it probably killed him. I think it got at least 1 lung on the offside. But regardless, didn't find him, so that sucked. Super sucked.
Yeah.
What are you thinking, Omar?
when I was like up there, I was like, all right, like sweet, like this is like working out.
Done and dusted.
Yeah, like pretty much like that. You know, that's all you can think when you're like 200 yards away. Like this is gonna work out textbook. Like I saw those two young rams come in. I was like, oh no! But then they kind of spooked off, and I saw like the other rams were totally fine, totally kosher. Probably thinking like these dumb kids running around. And then I was like, all right, like the bull standing up, and like things are like looking a little bit western. Like I was like when that bull first stood up and like fed a little bit. I think that's when he was at 40, and I was like observing behind, and I was like, I'm not sure why he hasn't taken a shot yet, but like that looked to me like a good opportunity, but I'm quick to find out he did get closer. And then, kind of things were getting a little crazy. So you got back, Drew, and I was like, oh shit, like it's about to happen. Took that shot, like saw that Tahr jump up, and there was a bunch of Tahr down in that area. So like they all started running away. And then I got my stuff, got my bow, started hiking down to you guys, and I see like Tahr following up. And I'm like, at that point, I'm like, should I shoot one?
Yeah, you had one come
at 60. Yeah, and I was just at it's probably like I just didn't know, like we never talked about, I guess, a plan after, like hey Omar, if like a Tahr comes up to you, like it might be possible, like this might be a time for you to shoot one. I'm thinking too, like in the back of my head, like no, like I want to get down the trail, Monty and Joe, and see like what's going on.
It's probably part of you also that's thinking like, oh, we're here to film a hunt.
Yeah.
Like nobody's going to be here to help me record, And
Exactly.
I mean, people can say what they want, you know what I mean? But we were there to film a hunt.
Yeah. Yeah. That's another thing I'm thinking too. Because when I got down to you guys, I'm like, all right, well, these guys are going to find the Tahr, and then there's Tahr running around. So I grabbed Joe for a little bit. I was like, should we go out for a stalk and see what happens? And then we quickly got like up to these Tahr, like 100 yards away. And if we really wanted to, like we could have like gone out, and then Joe was like, this is probably gonna be like your best chance to kill one. I'm like, yeah, but like I want to get back down a trail. Like I'm up here alone on mountains that I don't know. Yeah. And then like also too, like we're filming a hunt. So like we need, like if those guys are with the Tahr right now, or like we need to go capture whatever story's going on down there. Which, I thought like we were gonna get down there and be taking some photos and getting some backstraps, and quickly like going back up and see what, because it was like around that time. So I was thinking we'd still like get like an evening hunt or something like that. Yeah. But we got down there, and like as you mentioned, we started like glassing, scanning.
Yeah, we spent the rest of that whole day looking. Yeah,
looking like the guy, everyone, Monty, Joe, myself, you were like looking at bushes.
Yeah, we all fanned out and looked through those three. I mean, the thing about it is if it broke down into that next like vegetation layer, it was just like straight veg.
And where it had trees.
Yeah, big trees, and then like 3 big canyons essentially.
I remember thinking in my head, I'm like, man, like obviously like it's hunting, like the spot where like the Tahr was at, and like where we had to take a shot. Like if it was just like back where like more of the alpine stuff is at, and you could like there's grass and stuff, you'd be able to see like everything unfold after that. So I remember thinking like, man, it's never really easy, is it?
Yeah. I've thought about every different scenario. I mean, I've talked to a guy that's from New Zealand, and he's been like, yeah, I like fixed blades. I've thought like, is it issue with the broadhead, but like reality it was a complete pass through. It blew right through him. I mean, it was a hybrid, Sever hybrid. So you got bleeder blades and 2 larger blades. I mean, I couldn't ask for anything better in penetration. We've had people say that they don't bleed much. We had a guy tell us that like blood's almost non-existent. But then, we've talked to Monty. Monty's killed a bunch of them. He said, yeah, I get okay blood. I get usually enough to like follow. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I can see why he wouldn't bleed on the entrance side because it was high. But on the exit side, I don't know why I didn't get any blood in that side. And I don't know if it's just their hair is so long. Left to right, body-wise, it was perfect, like right behind the shoulder. I couldn't ask for a better shot in that regard. But, yeah, I mean, mid-body on the exit, and we'll post video. You guys will see it. But you guys can chime in and tell me whether he lived or died.
Yeah.
I think he died, but that's just my take.
Yeah. And then after that, it's just, like, I'm seeing you go through it, so I'm like, man, like this.
Yeah, it sucked. Yeah. That night sucked, man. That really sucked.
Yeah, you look pretty down.
Yeah,
real down.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted the animal bad. I wanted everything to go quick kill, quick recovery. That's what I wanted. It's what you hope for. It's what you practice for. And then, like I said, I'd never worked as hard to get in within range of an animal. So to like not go home with it really was a real stinger. It really sucked. And then, and that was kind of it, right?
That was it.
I mean, for our trip, that was it.
We had,
which even hurts even more a little bit.
Yeah. We came back to camp, and then I think we had a rainstorm the next day.
The rest of the day, that's the problem. I had a time of my life that day.
Oh, yeah.
Brady shot another.
I shot 2 more Tahr.
Mm-hmm.
So being a rifle guy, and we're up there, and we talked about the take of nannies and them over there trying to manage population, stuff like that, so you don't have those big calls come in and helicopters shoot a bunch of them. So we're over, me and Cam were hunting together all day and just kind of hanging out. We just glassing Tahr after Tahr, walking all these really cool steep places, and glassed up a group of nannies. And he's like, "Hey, do you want to shoot nanny?" I was like, "Yeah, definitely." So helped out, and I shot a nanny, and I got to use my rifle finally.
Yeah.
So I was really excited because we're way away from you guys.
We heard you guys banging away.
I only took 1 shot, so it wasn't banging away.
Well, we heard more shots.
Oh, that's later, yes.
Yeah. I mean, you shot a nanny, then you shot a bull, and then Cam shot a bull.
Yeah. So
we heard some shots.
Then later, we were glassing up other bulls and seeing some big bulls. And finally, you had a group circle around, and exact route you guys hiked up, there was bulls everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And we were looking at those. Cam was looking somewhere else. And I started digiscoping one. I was like, Cam, this is a really nice bull. You probably should look at this, because I don't know anything how to judge these things. They all look nice to me. So Cam looked at my footage and like, oh yeah, we have to go try to kill that bull. So we ran all the way down there. Light's starting to fade a little bit. Climbed up this super steep cliff face. And at one point I got sketched. I started looking behind me like, dude, it's a 50-foot drop we just climbed. And I'm like really grabbing on roots. That's all it was. Is like, those, I don't know what they were, the little things that kind of look like sagebrush. You're basically just grabbing onto that, climbing up. And I just kept thinking, if I fall, it's not going to be good. I've already had the time of my life. I don't need to die right now. And Cam's already up top. And as I got up top and got over to Cam already had his rifle laid down, the spotter out, phone on there, digiscoping. And all I did was walk over there and push record. And then Cam shot that bull that we're going after. That bull rolled. And it was like, oh yeah, shot it. Perfect. Looked like a perfect shot. It kind of looked like a high shoulder shot. So it pancaked down on the ground. He shot it with his rifle. And then all of a sudden I turned around, I'm like, Cam, look at that bull behind us. There was a bull somehow below us in a totally different group kind of walking around. And I'm like, what's going on there? And he's like, you want to shoot it? And I was like, yes. So then it was a frantic moment where I had to take my pack off. I think I had my pack sitting there, but my rifle's all tied in my pack, took the GOHUNT cover off it, and just threw it down as quick as I could. And it was like a 180-yard shot, and dropped that bull in 1 shot. I got to shoot that one with my rifle, which I was also really excited about. You
guys came back to camp with 2 Tahr. You got back after dark that night.
Yeah, and so I
just beat us barely a little bit, but
yeah. So it was an exciting day for me. But then I hear all your guys' story, and I feel bad for it, because that second Tahr is a little bit bigger than my first Tahr, a little bit more age and a little more polished horns, and so I had a time of my life, and Cam shot his, and Cam might have had to take a few more shots at his, and that's what the banging you probably heard was. But we both had a lot
it was
of Tahr.
all good. It's just, I don't know. I've had time to think about it and live with it. It feels like, I don't know. I mean, I hate that saying is what it is, but I don't know what else to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we got rained out.
Yeah.
It rained for 30 hours? Mm-hmm. Something like that.
That was probably another frustrating part, is just the opportunity if we had one more sunny day.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have on my photos here, the next 2 days we just sat around camp.
Yeah.
Literally rained all day.
Saturday night we got rocked by that big storm.
Oh yeah, and the wind was howling. Yeah. I think at one point I remember it raining for 30 some hours straight. Just absolutely dumped.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then I don't know what I was thinking, but in my head I had made up this vision of God's gonna give us another sunny day. So I'm like, you know what, we'll lick our wounds.
God giveth and God taketh.
And I don't know, in my head I'm like, nah, we'll get another sunny day. I believe. I had the high spirits, and then I'm looking at my Garmin forecast. I'm like, it's been pretty spot on the whole time. I don't know. I think this is it.
Yeah, every day I said on those rain days, 100% chance, and it was 3 inches of rain. And I'm like, yay.
Yeah,
it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, in the interest of time, we ended up backpacking out, and then we got to a hut and decided to get a helicopter ride out, just in the interest of time.
Yeah.
So we caught a chopper out, which was a quick flight, maybe 20 minutes.
It's pretty silly. And the whole time they were saying we don't know any American who's ever done what we went through to hunt Kiwi style, which was cool to see. But we didn't get the full Kiwi experience because we didn't hike out, but we wanted to maximize hunting time. And
we flew out, and then after that made our way back. But in all, I'm gonna just run through my gear choices that I did not just changes. And then just like any general thoughts that you guys have.
Yeah.
The only thing I didn't really use in my backpack was a Black Rock hoodie.
I didn't use mine either.
I ended up using the atmosphere jacket, a down jacket, a rain jacket, and then a short sleeve base layer, and then a long sleeve base layer. So I'd have probably been fine with that without that Black Rock, and just only taken one mid layer. One pair of socks. I would have only taken one pair of socks because I just didn't need to. I just was packing around one pair of wet socks the whole time, so I didn't need that. Other than that, I didn't really have any gear problems. Everything else.
Would you have changed your shelter though?
I would have changed my shelter. So I took a Hilleberg Enon, which is a one-man tent, which was great. It was great for the wind, great for rain for the most part, but I would have taken a 2-man shelter just to have some more room to like set up in and move around in a little bit. And then kind of lay my sleeping bag in the middle of that so it's not touching any walls or anything like that. Because that was the hardest part I found, was just keeping my sleeping bag dry. And it never got really wet, but it was damp. Spent some damp nights in a sleeping bag. And I'd have taken Crocs.
Yeah.
Which I was like poo-pooing your guys' Crocs, but I wish I had a pair because I walked around barefoot a lot.
I'm glad this is publicly aired right now that you wish you would have taken Crocs.
I would have taken some other thing, maybe like those Nike foam runners or whatever.
Oh, exactly. They wouldn't be technically Crocs.
I just generally don't like Crocs.
The Canes.
I don't even own a pair, but something else. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would have. How about you guys?
I mean, I carried crampons in because I just figured since a rifle guy, I'd shoot something really up high, but I never used my crampons all the time, so I was just carrying extra weight that I didn't need.
Solar panel wouldn't.
Solar panel, the Graxol. Like I said, normally Graxol, even without a fire, I could dry my boots out, but that was like that ain't gonna happen.
Yeah.
So I ditched those two things. I did not use the Black Rock. I also took our Basin Merino leggings, and I wore them just around camp one morning because I was like, wow, I brought them, but like I technically didn't use them, so I wouldn't bring that again.
I'm gonna let you guys run with this before I pee my pants.
Okay,
I'll wrap it out.
Yeah, I'll wrap it out. Yeah.
Sorry, we're at critical mass right now.
Okay, that's why he was rushing the storytelling. Now I know. Now I know. Now we can go back and tell all the other details that we missed. Yeah. See, I went to brought that. I brought less camera gear. I mean, I did leave some lenses last second, but like I still brought 2 lenses, and both my lenses are really heavy. My 35 1.2 is a beast.
Yeah.
Really heavy. I probably would have swapped that for something else. Maybe more modular. Like I really need to get like a 24-70 to like just one do-it-all lens rather than like having a 35 and then I had 12 to 24 as well. And I think I brought 4 or 5 batteries. I used one.
Yeah.
Like I always think like, oh, I'm going to stay up at night and take some like night photos and stuff like that of the stars, and it was rainy the whole time. And that one night, I think you took some Milky Way photos, but like that was the only reason why I think I need more batteries. But like I got to stop bringing so many batteries on hunts like this. Other pieces of gear. I mentioned ammo. Would not bring extra ammo for you guys. Sorry. I would just like, go less. I mean, I shot 2 shots, and I brought 26 rounds out there. And then 1 shot with Cam's rifle. So like I definitely didn't need all that ammo. That was a lot of weight. Charge bricks, I was pretty good on bringing 3. I brought 3 out there. I cursed bringing a TP for a little bit because it's just kind of a little heavier, but I'm glad we brought it.
Yeah, it worked out good.
Yeah, because luckily we had a flat enough spot, but like we were sitting pretty nice when everyone else was like uncomfortable underneath tarps. We were like totally dry.
Yeah.
Like we had enough space in there. We could move around. I had a couple comments like, will we bring down sleeping bags again? And yeah, I totally would bring a down sleeping bag. The only thing I would probably add, because I was able to dry, I see my sleeping bag dried really easy, and I was able to dry a lot of my socks inside on my sleeping bag at night, but just bring like a waterproof cover for the sleeping bag.
Yeah.
Because that one day, I only had a compression sack, and that one day, I think it was the day we went to the last hut. Yeah, when we got down.
In that water.
The water was actually up to my backpack, and part of my sleeping bag did get wet there. Then luckily that night we did have a fire at that little hut, and we were able to get one going. And I was able to dry my sleeping bag out. But for safety reasons, I've definitely brought a waterproof sack to go around my compression sack. And yeah, maybe less food.
Less food, really.
We kind of went ham. We went at that grocery store. Like I brought those banana chips, which I never bring on a hunt. They were like, oh, you guys were all getting chocolate, and you guys, I hate sugar, but I was like, screw it. We're getting this New Zealand chocolate. Like, might as well try it. So I brought like a giant bar, which was super heavy. Probably would have added some more bone broth and ramen because like it was just wet every single day. So it would have been nice to cook it up there. But I can't think of any other pieces of gear I would change off the top of my head right now.
Yeah, the The main thing I think that I was thinking was one, like I brought 2 camera lenses. I had a 24-70 and a 35, and I would have probably just left the 35 and brought the 24-70 because I didn't use the 35 much at all. I had like 6 batteries for the camera, but I kind of wanted just like the backup just in case. Like this, we did get split up. Like I could record some video.
Yeah, we could do some video. Yeah, and that's gonna eat up batteries.
Yeah, so I'm not mad that I brought it in for that. So it's kind of like a backup. It's just with some extra weight. And then other than that, I kind of wish that I would have taken off my sight and maybe my dampeners off my bow, just to keep my my sight a little bit safer. Luckily, I didn't like get banged up or anything.
Yeah, you did shoot narrow in camp to verify everything was on. But yeah, that would have been probably a good call.
Yeah. And then, I ended up losing the damper on my bow, which is not a huge deal, but it's kind of like annoying. But just like to protect the bow a little bit more, I did have like the GOHUNT little like bow cover on there, which is great because I didn't mention earlier, but I was hiking with my bow on my pack for a little bit just to have all my hands, and then I had a trekking pole. But I ended up taking like a big spill, and luckily my bow was all right. But that's kind of when I decided like, I need to like hike with this thing in my hand. So like if I do fall, I can like toss it or, kind of like land on a way where it's not breaking a cam or something. And then I think I had 2 approach hoodies, which I would have just taken one. I thought that maybe I'd want to be like in a dry one, which when I did have it, like it did end up working kind of nice, but I thought it was just too much gear to pack in there. And then the Black Rock hoodie, I actually would have used it more if it wasn't that I didn't fall in like the mud pile and then had to wash it off because then I could never get it dry again. But other than that, I thought that gear was pretty good. I really liked the boot choice, which was like the La Sportiva Equilibrium, the same ones that you had, just like the leather version.
Oh, that's another thing. I wish I would have broke my boots in more because I did get major blisters.
Yeah.
Because those weren't broken in. And again, this battle I go with stiff boots, but I think it's just a break-in thing. Because I do love those boots. Yeah. I think they were the right choice for the terrain, like we talked about in the video. But I think that was hampering to my speed on how I hiked up all that steep stuff was having 2 giant blisters.
And then I didn't bring a tripod because you guys all had like Cam and those guys had Digi. Sure, I had Digi, you had Digi. But I was thinking like it would be nice to... I was like, I know my next gear purchase is probably going to be like a Swaro 65 because I was watching Trail and Cam on their Swaros. I'm like, man, it's like, this is like literally like the one spotter you really need for all backpack hunting.
Yeah.
So I was just like thinking of gear to buy. And then I was very comfortable in the teepee. But if I were to go solo on my own, I'd probably do the same thing that Trail said and get like a 2-man, like, 3-season tent to take up there.
Yeah, because we did get lucky too with the teepee. I mean, like, obviously people now know that GoHunt's designing a teepee. So, like, I've spent a lot of nights in teepees. I'm trying to make this one, with other input from obviously people at GoHunt, but like enough guidelines on there to support some of these hunts. But like, it is risky taking a teepee up, in the Alpine because of wind situations. So if we had nastier weather, I would have probably also wished for a freestanding shelter. Yeah. I think that's a safer bet where we went. But yeah, a 2-person rather than a 1, so you can have more room to move around and not have condensation fall on us all night because
the wind.
The wind is knocking condensation on us constantly inside that teepee.
And then I packed a bivvy and a tarp, which I didn't ever use, but I'm kind of glad that I had it just in case we did want to peel off. But then Trail asked me, like, how come you didn't sleep with the bivvy, like, your bivvy set up in the tarp? And I was like, well, yeah, I could have done that and, like, maybe kept things, like, a little bit more dry. But then I'm thinking when I'm elk hunting, I still get condensation in my bivvy.
You might have got a lot more.
So I feel like
everything was so wet in the air.
Yeah, and then, like, it doesn't dry off as quickly because it's not getting air. So, like, I definitely am glad I didn't do that. And then, which is like cool about having like a bunch of guys in camp, was that I had a giant hole in my pad on day 2. So for, like for 3 days, maybe 4 days out of the hunt, I literally slept on the ground, or like on a very shitty pad. So it was like nice having Cam in camp who had like a pretty like beefy setup to fix my pad. And I fixed it one night and I was good that night, and then ended up leaking again. And then in one of those rainstorms, I just like went crazy with seam seal, and then one of those like it's almost like that material of a sleeping pad. Put it on there and kind of just went crazy and made sure it was all good. But other than that, I was pretty happy with the gear choices. And
maybe next time not jump on it with your hip quiver.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will say that's 2 of those now that I know of that somebody has sat down with the hip quiver onto their sleeping pad and popped it.
I was so excited. I was like, I had it all blown up. I was like, can't wait to sleep.
And then jumped in there.
Yeah. I'm like, no.
Did you already talk to Joe about his gear?
Not yet.
Not yet. I was just getting to it now.
Joe, you probably learned a lot, huh?
I did. Yeah. I mean, I've never been in an environment that wet. That was probably what I was worried about the most, was keeping lenses and cameras dry, which I think I did for the most part. But people were hesitant with me bringing the drone, but I'm still glad I did, because what other opportunity do you have to take a drone on a hunt? Because you can't do it here in America. So I was like, I'm going to do it. If there was more sunny days, I could have got some pretty epic footage. The 70x200, it was nice to have, but I probably didn't need it with all the phone scoping and stuff. But yeah, I was happy with the pants. Pants did awesome.
Yeah, the pants were great.
Yeah, looking forward to those getting out into people's hands.
I don't think we talked about that at all. Our GoHunt pants we were testing, they held up pretty well. But as far as clothing, I'm glad I took the extra socks, because the night we did the fire, I dried them out. And then that last night when it was like really cold, I put them on in my sleep bag. And I think it kept me a little bit warmer.
There you go.
Yeah.
So how was it filming that hunt for you? Are you looking forward to?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to sitting
working
down and
on
looking at it. Yeah, I took a bigger camera, and like the FX6, which is a little bit bigger, but it was just such cool country. I just wanted like to look really good, so I'm happy I took that.
Yeah.
I think in hindsight, I would have kept it in my pack on the hike in, because I could have used my smaller camera to do all that.
Yeah,
but it's going to look really good for the days the sun was shining.
Yeah, this is one of those hunts. Like, I'm not always super pumped to have a camera guy. It's fun to have guys in camp that are, fun to hunt with and hang out with. But I could, camera neither here nor there for me. But this is actually one where I'm genuinely pretty excited to just be able to, show my family. Like, hey, look at this. Friends or family. Like, look at this incredible country. Like, in some small way, allow them to like see what it was that we did and where it was at, and just, it was gorgeous. I will say this is like probably some of the most gorgeous country I've ever been in.
Oh, amazing!
Yeah,
unbelievable country.
I couldn't believe we're standing up top of there. I remember thinking like, there's no like where we're going is not up there, right? And then lo and behold, we're up there. I'm like, I can't believe this.
Yeah,
like it was actually, how to digest the fact that you could actually get to this point. It was pretty crazy.
Yeah, incredible country.
Do you guys want, we talked about just general gear that we were happy with, but I don't think we talked about a big reason that we went out to New Zealand to do this hunt, which was to test our own private label gear. Do you want to hit that, Joe?
Yeah, we tested a bunch of gear that we've kind of got in development. So we're working on some insulation layers, some puffies, pants and jacket. Down booties, also some rain gear that we're working on. We wanted to also just like test further our own base layers, so the base and merino layers, and then the pants. We really wanted to put the pants through the paces. I think this is the 3rd or 4th version, I want to say, of the pants that we've been working on. And man, it might sound pretty basic to build a pair of pants, but when you've got all the different people in the office with different fits and functions and things that they're looking for, and then try to find some medium ground and then build a pant that you like, was actually quite a bit harder than I thought it was going to be. And then just wear and tear, like how does the thing wear? How does it fit, function? Does it stretch? If you've worn it for 8 days straight in all different kinds of environments and terrain, how did it function? And I can say pretty adamantly that like I was really happy with the pant. I think the pant is going to be a big hit. I think people that buy it will really like it. I really like the pant a lot.
I was blown away with the pant.
Yeah,
I like the quality, the materials, how quick it dries, how it wears,
how it fit.
I had knee pads in it the whole time. How comfortable those are to have in there.
Fit's always been a big one for me with a pair of pants. Like if it just doesn't fit well and move well, I just don't like it. And I think these pants fit really well.
And doesn't stretch out on day 2 like a lot of other hunting pants do.
Yeah, and I got good feedback from everybody that worn them. I think everybody kind of liked the way they fit and function. So I think
amazed by the durability too.
Yeah,
because you guys all had gaiters. I didn't have gaiters. That wasn't strategic by any means. It was just I have gaiters. My gaiters were dirty from last year's spring bear hunt. I wasn't going to clean them a day before going to New Zealand. But it was actually like a good test to just like, you know, how they handle all like the brush and all the sticks and stuff like hanging onto them. And I have no holes in my pants. And then like the reinforced arse that we have, like sliding down. I'm surprised none of us like.
I'm really blown away that none of us have holes in our pants, just because of the wear in the environment, not just because of the materials. It's literally because we're sliding on our ass on rocks.
We have some things that we want to change, like, you know, some of the zippers and reinforce them inseams.
We learned a lot about the gear that we're trying to develop.
Yeah, we also had two shelters out there. Two
shelters. One man in a teepee.
Yeah, one man in a teepee, and then we had 2 different sets of gloves, like a kind of a shooting glove, and then like what we'll call eventually some like bow hunting style.
Yeah, like a lightweight glove
as well, and.
As far as gear goes, I thought the TP did really well. I thought the pants did absolutely awesome. I thought the atmosphere jacket's a total home run.
Yeah.
I thought that thing was great.
It did really, really, really good in like that moist, wet conditions.
Yeah, did awesome. And then we found out where we need to make some improvements, which is great. That's the reason we did it. Anything else that you guys would touch on? Planning?
I just got one more.
Yeah,
I want to touch on too about like, cause we did all that talk earlier in a different podcast about like, you know, tahr populations and, you know, things that are struggling for tahr and like the culling that they do with helicopters that are non-native species. So like before we went, Cam was like, what can one thing we do? And he's like, you can donate to the New Zealand Tahr Foundation.
Okay.
So I think it's really cool that, you know, New Zealand Tahr Foundation, you can become a member. I think it's $140 for a non-resident to become a member, or you can just go and click donate and donate money to help them out with, you know, tahr research. You know, working through all that stuff to help them manage it with Department of Conservation over there, and just, you know, make sure there's hunting continuation for the future. And
how much is a membership?
$140 for non-resident, or you can just donate whatever you want. If you want to do like $5 or $10.
Yeah, annually for a year, $140.
Yep, and it's a, you know, pretty cool membership, and they have all the perks too. But like, I just coughed it up as, okay, I'm just donating to a good cause. You know, I deserve to look back and you know, help them out, and, you know, help the education and just future of tahr hunting in New Zealand. Yeah, they're really cool animal. Like, I've always wanted to see one in person, and like, gosh, they're cool.
I mean, I can say this now. I don't know, I'll probably raise some feathers, but I'd rather shoot a tahr than a mountain goat. I think they're neater animals. I just think they're cool. Really, I mean, they're different animals, but certainly I just think they're really cool. They're a really neat animal.
I have a question for Brady.
Yeah.
Would you rather hunt tahr or hunt spring black bear, but you have to go during the spring? Like, it's either or.
I knew you were gonna ask that. I'd hunt tahr. I love black bears, and you know that. I think they're the coolest animal ever, but it was very awesome to not have ticks crawling all over you. Like, the ticks are just horrible.
Just water.
Yeah, just water. And yeah, I spray with permethrin, and I still have ticks everywhere. And like, that was a breath of fresh air. And they're such a cool animal. Like, I mean, we talked about, you know, how we struggle all the time to, you know, some days we have good bear days where we see like 5 to, you know, 6, 7, 8 bears. But like, tahr, like, everywhere you look, you can kind of find tahr. And that was cool about it. Like, yeah, it's a, you know, good spot too, but I'm sure there's other areas that are very similar to that in New Zealand too. But it's just a fun hunt. I love that nasty mountains. Like, we always said, like, our bear hunt's pretty nasty and steep and rugged. It looks like we're hunting in flat land now compared to what we just experienced in New Zealand and how difficult that hunt was.
Yeah.
So that's a cool, different thing. But they're different in good ways. But yeah, tahr hunting, amazing.
And then I got a question for both of you. If I said you guys could go do this hunt again next year, what are some things that you would change? Like, now knowing what you learned.
Yeah, I would. One, I would pick a weather window. So we booked early our plane tickets to try to save some money. I would wait and watch the weather window, and I would try to book my hunt as close as I possibly, or book my flights, I should say, as close as I possibly could to my hunt to pick the best weather window I possibly could. Because really, if you're going to go all the way down there, like, days in the field with good weather where you can actually get out and hunt are worth everything. So if I had to pay, I don't know how much the difference was, but I'd pay a pretty hefty price to just have the day with good weather to hunt. So I would do that differently. I would try to play the weather window as good as I possibly could.
And we should throw out there that only works if you have a bow.
Only works if you have a bow.
Or you have a rifle there that you could borrow from someone, because you have to have a flight, an arrival date and a departure date to actually get your permit kind of work through. That's why we had to book when we did and get the dates kind of nailed down. So if you had the rifle, doesn't make that possible, but
I would do that. And then the other thing is if it looked like our weather days were going to be constrained, I would probably utilize a helicopter for travel in and out potentially, just to, because we backpacked for 2.5 days, essentially 3 days, which were good days, like good hunting days, and we were backpacking.
Yeah.
Whereas I think if we'd have caught a helicopter and we got those 2 days, again, hindsight's 20/20, but you can't, when you're in it, you're in it. So I would just watch the weather. So if I did get there and it looked like I had 2 or 3 good hunting days ahead of me before weather hit, like I would have taken a helicopter in and then maybe backpacked out if I had to, you know? And again, it's like, I love the backpacking part of it. In fact, like, cause I've got home and I look back on it, like I legitimately really love that part. It was one of my favorite parts, was the backpacking part of it. It's just like, what do you trade off? Right. I traded some hunting days. So I'd rather be hunting than backpacking, obviously, but I didn't hate the backpacking part of it. I actually really liked it.
I'm glad we experienced
looking back on it. So I would do that differently.
And then
can't think of anything else.
You said something about you might like get 2 weeks instead and then do like a stash of food.
Yeah, I think that would be way fun. I think it would be really fun to book like 15 days or 16 days as far as like your flights in and out, and then take like 8 days of food in and stash it and go up and hunt for 8 and then come back and restock if I had to. Because most of this is just as a bow hunter. As a bow hunter, you need days in the field. You need opportunities. You need everything to kind of go right. I think I got lucky in that, there was a bull in a good spot for a stock and it worked out with the one day that we had, really. But to be pretty consistent with a bow and arrow, you just got to have days in the field. And I feel like, 2 weeks would have been awesome. So I think I would,
especially if you're over there already.
I mean, it's so far to go. I mean, I really look at that. I think I told those guys when I left, I was like, this is probably like a once in a lifetime experience for me. And they were like, oh, you just got to come back next year. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if I can afford to come back next year. I don't know if my schedule and, where my life and my kids are at, but like, I don't know. I'll be 46 this year. And I look at that and I'm like, shit, I don't know. How many more years do you have where you can like really push your body and everything to the kind of that limit that it required? I don't know how many more you get. So for me, it like really was probably was a true once in a lifetime type of experience.
So my only side wish too, along with the like extra days, is maybe make some extra days to do some sightseeing.
That'd be fun.
Because I've traveled other places and the sightseeing was a little bit. When I went to Tajikistan, did some stuff in Turkey, but not a lot. Alaska, never really did anything. But don't really regret that. But like going to New Zealand and being like a Lord of the Rings fan, like I really wish I would have
been to Hobbitville.
Yeah, gotta go see some of that, or just even see all those other mountain ranges.
Joe too. Joe's a big Lord of the Rings fan. So you guys should talk shop.
They do.
Do they?
Yeah.
Have you guys run through?
Who was all the characters again? Can you give me the rundown?
Oh yeah, I did. So I kept saying the whole time. I gave a lot of Lord of the Rings references. I kind of slowed down because I thought people were going to think I'm a freak. They probably already do. So I said, yes, the Fellowship constantly was taking the ring to Mordor.
Yeah.
And at one point I was like, okay, we have to describe the Fellowship here. We did have a team. So Frodo was Cam.
Okay.
Sam was Monty, because Sam's a beast and he carries everything. Cast iron pans, all that stuff. Yeah, they carried everything, in a way. Helped basically motivate the team to get to where we needed to do the whole time. He was the reason we got the ring to Mordor, which is successful on Tahr. Trail, I'm sure you can guess, he is Legolas.
Gollum.
Nope, he is Legolas. All right, and I was like,
Gollum.
Joe looks like he could wield a sword, especially his long-haired photo.
Oh,
so
If I had the long hair.
He's Aragorn.
Oh,
you have to
gotcha.
be. You have to be.
Be a good one. That'd be a good one.
And then Omar kept being like, well,
Gollum.
Who am I? And he's like, he's either Gollum or Gimli. And I was like, you look like a Gimli. You look like you could wield an axe.
Oh, I just wanted to be Gollum so
I'll
bad.
trade you. I'll be Gollum.
and then I was like, well, obviously I'm Gandalf. I always wear hoods all the time. And I'm just so taller. And I carried my big giant
you did look like
staff all the time.
Gandalf with your like pin cane.
Your walking stick.
Walking stick. So that was our fellowship.
Well, let's do it again sometime, shall we?
We just talked about how we can't do it.
I know, but now I want to. Talking about it makes me want to do it real bad.
That's the thing is like, I mean, I think what's crazy too is we've been able to, like, Cam is like a really, really good friend. Like, I think someone commented, like, what guide service did you guys use? And it's like, no, it's just, like our friend kind of like invited us out when we finally took him up on the invite. So there's like, without Cam or Monty, I think there's zero way we would have been able to do it. What are we going to do? Rent trucks and then pick a trailhead and go?
I think you could do it. It would just take a lot more planning and then a lot more. You would have to be willing to like probably have some failure under your belt before you actually started to figure it out. I think it would take some trips to if you truly wanted to do it on your own. I think you could probably do it if you put it together. If you had like a real sense of adventure and your expectations were like way out there, like you're going to really go for it. You were young and really willing to get after it. It might be feasible, but I think you'd probably have to be willing to take some failures before you actually start to figure it out. Yeah. But yeah. I mean, reality is like where we ended up and what we did. Like, I don't think I couldn't have ever got in there and done that on my own.
I think you need a level of like, I don't know what the term is, woodsmanship or something like that. You need to have been in some mountains before if you're going to like try to pull up and do it yourself type of trip.
I mean, there were so many times where I was like, I kept thinking like I wouldn't do that on my own. Like I wouldn't have the balls, I guess, to say like I wouldn't.
Cojones.
Yeah, the cojones. I wouldn't have done that on my own. But if you got somebody that has done it, and then kind of show you how to navigate it. And they create this expectation of like, we are doing it. We're going there. This is how we're going to do it.
Yeah.
Your level, your ceiling increases. It gets higher. You're like, okay, I can do that.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, I've thought about it since I got home. I was like, I probably could do it now on my own. I feel like if I really strapped in and really went for it, like I could probably figure it out. But again, it was just my expectations were here and now, or my level of like understanding of what I'm getting myself into was like here and now it's here.
Yeah.
I think it's that way with everything.
Everything, yeah.
Every hunting. Like you seem like you're never going to kill a bull elk or a big mule deer buck, and then you do, and then you start to kill a few of them, and you're like, okay, yeah, this is totally feasible. I can do it. Whereas the first time you're like, this is impossible, which is how I felt a lot of the time there. Like this thing is impossible.
It's even interesting to me that they obviously had inReaches, but they also had personal locator beacons too. Like for safety. Like they're like, you guys have.
So you just lay there and suffer until someone shows up.
Yeah. They like all asked us that. I'm like, no, like they all rock them over there. Like for safety, it's always on. And
bro, if I'm in a spot where I have to trip my beacon, I'm just gonna bash my head in with a rock. I don't want to lay there. Yeah, they do though. But good dudes. I mean, maybe that's the best place to stop, right? It's just a hearty thank you to those guys for taking time and effort to put up with us and help us out. And just two incredible human beings with a massive sense of adventure.
Yeah. They couldn't have done it without them.
Very talented, both of them. The pair of them.
Also wanted to mention, Cam wanted us to shout out if we do like a Debrief podcast, which we did. He is hiring for a full-time position. So he's, looking for a full-time marketing position as agency, CASO Creative. Himself and his wife run this creative agency. So he says if you could take a decent photo, you might have yourself a job in New Zealand. He's located outside of Christchurch. So if you want to hit him up, _Cam Henderson _ on Instagram, or we'll make sure to like link a email if you wanted to reach out or something like that to the description. If you're looking for a job in New Zealand, maybe.
If I was super young,
be ready to get after it
and can run a camera, I'd be chomping at the bit to do that.
Oh, 100%. This is one of like the jobs where I'm like, man, like, 21, like, whatever, like, just go out there, full sense of adventure, have no ties to anything, and just want to get out in the woods,
live life.
Cam, what about a 46-year-old with 3 kids and can't use a camera? You into it?
Hired.
Yep. Where can we start?
Thanks, guys.